Before the journey begins, take a slow breath and let the world around you soften. Let the noise drift away. Let the thoughts loosen their hold. And let your senses settle into the quiet space you've made for yourself tonight. You're here to unwind, to feel safe, to feel held by something vast and steady. And as you listen, the ocean will become that steady presence, an endless breath of calm that rises and falls all around you. Welcome to the Gentle Physicist, where curiosity moves slowly, where science becomes a lullaby, and where even the deepest mysteries speak in soft tones meant to guide you into rest. For a moment, simply float. Imagine the faint scent of salt in the air, the coolness of distant waves, and the low hum of the sea calling you closer. There is no urgency here, no weight to carry, nothing demanding your attention. Only the ocean, opening like a quiet doorway into a world where everything moves at the pace of peace. And for a moment, everything feels still. You are standing at the edge of a vast calm, the surface of the deep sea stretching before you in all directions. The light dances in gentle ripples, the horizon glows softly, and the water sways in rhythms older than memory. Each wave carries a whisper of the world beneath, drifting creatures, slow-moving giants, glowing trails, meadows of swaying seagrass, and the timeless blue that holds them all. Tonight, you will travel through that world, not with speed, but with softness, letting your mind drift the way currents drift, letting each fact, each moment, gently guide your thoughts toward rest. As you begin this descent, imagine the warmth of sunlight fading layer by layer, turning golden, then blue, then a deep, peaceful twilight. Every level of the ocean carries a different kind of calm. Near the surface, the water glows with life and color. Deeper down, gentle shapes drift like echoes. Far below, the world slows into stillness so complete that even time feels softer. You will move through each of these places the way a dream moves, without effort, without resistance, carried by the ocean's own patient rhythm. In this journey, wonder becomes a kind of comfort. Every fact you hear is meant to ease your mind, not activate it. Every image is shaped to soften your breath, not sharpen your focus. This is science told slowly, made for quiet hours, made for wandering thoughts, made for nights when you need the universe to hold you gently. So let your eyes grow heavy, let your breathing deepen, let the day you carried fade into the distance behind you. The deep sea is waiting, calm, ancient, and endlessly soothing, and it will guide you downward with the lightest touch. This is your moment of rest, your quiet passage into the soft unknown. Welcome once again to the Gentle Physicist. Tonight, we drift into the deep. Sometimes the first thing you notice is the quiet. A gentle hush settles around you, as if the ocean has taken a slow breath and is holding it just long enough for you to feel safe in its presence. The surface moves in long, soft waves, folding and unfolding with the rhythm of someone sleeping nearby. Each rise feels like a welcome, and each fall feels like a release. You imagine yourself drifting effortlessly, held by water that asks nothing of you. Sunlight warms the air above, turning thoughts into something lighter, something that no longer presses so firmly against the mind. The sound of water reaches you in delicate layers. A distant splash, a soft ripple, a whisper of foam. These sounds blend into a single calming tone, the kind of steady presence that makes the world feel slower, gentler, easier to rest within. You breathe with it without even trying, matching your pace to its patient rhythm. And for a moment, everything feels still. The surface becomes a place where the day loosens its hold. Edges blur. Worries drift outward like ripples that travel farther and farther until they fade into water. Above you, the sky glows softly. Below you, the blue grows deeper, inviting yet unhurried. You feel as if the ocean is guiding you, showing you how to relax by simply existing in its endless calm. And quietly, almost without noticing, you begin to descend, carried toward the places where sunlight starts to soften into mystery. There is something deeply familiar about the sound of water moving at its own unhurried pace. It wraps around the mind with a softness that asks nothing and gives everything, a steady presence that smooths the edges of thought. When we hear water, the body remembers that flowing sound as a sign of safety, a signal that the world is calm enough for attention to loosen. The gentle whoosh carries no sharpness, no sudden shift, just a continuous motion that echoes the rhythm of an easy breath. As the sound settles, the mind follows, drifting into a quieter place where thoughts slow down and the heart finds a steadier beat. The simplicity of water becomes an anchor, holding awareness gently without tightening its grip. And as each soft wave fades into the next, a subtle quiet grows, encouraging you to drift a little deeper into the unfolding calm. The sound becomes a doorway, hinting at the wider, darker world below the surface where light thins and wonder waits. In that steady murmur, the mind learns to release the small tensions it carries, letting them drift outward like tiny bubbles rising toward the open air. The ocean's voice never demands focus. It simply exists beside you, patient and unbroken, a reminder that not all movement must be hurried or loud. Listening to it feels like leaning into a deeper breath, one that invites you to loosen your hold on the day and trust the quiet waiting below. And so you drift into quiet light. At the surface, sunlight scatters into 1,000 soft patterns, each one shifting gently as the water moves beneath it. The light dances in slow, wandering shapes, as if the day itself were breathing along with the sea. Every ripple bends the brightness into new forms, creating a mosaic that never repeats but never startles. It feels ancient, this shimmering dance, like a memory the world has carried since long before we learned to name its colors. As you watch, the motion becomes a soft guide, drawing your attention without gripping it, letting your thoughts wander in slow, pleasant arcs. The glittering reflections drift like tiny lanterns set afloat on a quiet lake, drifting wherever the gentle push of the current decides to carry them. There is a peaceful honesty in the way the light touches the water, softening every edge, turning even the smallest wave into a moment worth lingering on. And as you drift with the rhythm, you begin to sense how the surface holds both movement and stillness, offering a balance that asks nothing more than your quiet presence. The brightness above feels gentle, never harsh, as if the sun has chosen to whisper rather than shine, letting its warmth reach you in softened rays that glide across the water. Slowly, the shimmering mosaic begins to thin, each reflection stretching farther apart as the water deepens in color. You feel the pull of deeper blue waiting just beneath the glow, and still you drift into quiet light. At the surface, life moves with an ease that feels almost unreal when seen from a calm distance. Dolphins rise and fall in smooth arcs, their bodies cutting through the water as if following a melody only they can hear. Seabirds glide just above the waves, their wings barely stirring the air as they skim the surface with effortless grace. And beneath them, jellyfish drift upward, in slow, gentle pulses, glowing faintly as if lit from within by a quiet thought. Watching these creatures feels like watching time stretch, every motion lengthened until it becomes soothing to simply witness. Their movements hold no rush, no urgency, only the steady rhythm of beings completely at home in their element. Each slow swim, each glide, each gentle rise to the surface becomes an invitation to breathe with them, to match the tempo of a world that chooses calm over speed. Even the sunlight seems to pause around them, clinging to smooth skin or drifting feathers, turning every movement into a moment framed by quiet brilliance. You sense how effortlessly they accept the water's support, how naturally they lean into the currents instead of resisting them. Their calm becomes your calm. Their pace becomes your pace. And for a while you drift with them through the soft meeting place of air and sea. In their measured movements, you feel a hint of deeper waters calling, a promise of the quieter world waiting below. And gently you follow, down into calm, toward deeper blue. At the top of the ocean, the world is still held in gentle light, a soft brightness that makes everything feel familiar and close. You drift through the first 50 meters as if moving through the opening of a long, peaceful dream. The water is warm here, touched by sunlight that ripples across your skin like a quiet welcome. Small fish shimmer past in loose, wandering groups, their scales catching the light in slow, drifting flashes that resemble thoughts passing through a resting mind. Nothing rushes, nothing pushes. The sea carries you at its own patient pace, letting you float without effort. As you move deeper, the pressure rises in ways the body cannot feel, yet the imagination senses the shift. Like entering a calmer room where sound begins to soften. The colors around you start to dim, not abruptly, but gently, as though the sea is slowly lowering the lights to guide you toward a quieter space. Every movement becomes smoother, every sound more distant, every thought a little lighter. This familiar layer is the ocean's own twilight, a place designed to ease you from the brightness above to the deeper blues waiting below. You feel suspended in a moment that stretches comfortably, neither rising nor sinking too quickly, simply existing in calm suspension. And as the last strands of bright light begin to thin around you, the water hints at new colors forming in the distance. A deeper shade gathers softly, inviting you onward into the quiet below. Breath moves through the body with a rhythm that feels ancient, a quiet rise and fall that the ocean seems to understand instinctively. When you imagine yourself floating in calm water, each inhale feels like a gentle lift, and each exhale feels like a soft surrender. The sea holds you without effort, supporting every part of you as if gravity has loosened its grip. In this balance, something inside begins to unwind. Muscles soften, thoughts drift. The water moves around you in slow currents that echo the cadence of your breathing, creating a harmony between body and sea. And for a moment, everything feels still. As you drift, the idea of buoyancy becomes more than physics. It becomes a feeling of being carried, of being allowed to rest without needing to hold yourself up. There is a quiet comfort in knowing that the water will meet you wherever you are, rising gently beneath you like a calm, steady breath. Even the faint pressure of depth seems to cradle you, wrapping you in a softness that encourages the mind to loosen its grip on the waking world. With every slow inhale, you rise through a whisper of light. With every easy exhale, you sink a little deeper into blue, The rhythm continues, unbroken and patient, guiding you through the first layers of descending calm. And as the water around you darkens by a shade, the breath within you stays gentle, carrying you downward with quiet certainty. And the descent continues softly. Blue has always been a color that invites the mind to soften, and in the upper layers of the sea, it surrounds you like a gentle reassurance. The light shifts slowly as you drift deeper, turning bright surface blue into a calmer, richer shade that feels both expansive and protective. It is a color that carries distance, a color that seems to breathe with you, offering a quiet space for thoughts to loosen. As you watch the change unfold, the world feels less defined, its edges smoothing into softer shapes that welcome your drifting attention, and for a moment everything feels still. The deeper you move, the more the blue begins to feel like an atmosphere of its own, a soft envelope that steadies your senses. It dims gradually, never abrupt, never sudden, as if the ocean knows how carefully the mind must be guided into darker calm. Each shade carries its own quiet story, reminding you of open skies, deep lakes, and peaceful evening light. These memories blend together into a single feeling of trust, a sense that this color will not startle or overwhelm. In this deepening blue, time seems to slow. Thoughts lengthen, breaths even out, and the mind drifts as gently as the currents around you. Shapes become silhouettes, small movements softened by distance, everything becoming quieter in both sound and meaning. The color holds you, steady and unhurried, while the sea around you continues its slow transformation. And the deepening blue gently leads you onward. Waves begin with the simplest motion, a quiet passing of energy that travels farther than the water itself ever moves. At the surface, each wave lifts and lowers with a patience that feels almost intentional, as though the ocean is breathing in long measured intervals. When you picture these gentle swells, you can feel the rhythm settle into your own body, smoothing your thoughts into slower patterns. The motion is harmonic, repeating without rushing, offering a steady tempo that softens the mind. And for a moment, everything feels still. The water rises, pauses, and falls again, never in a hurry, never asking you to follow anything complex. This predictability is comforting. The brain relaxes when the world moves in patterns it can understand without effort. Each wave becomes a quiet reassurance that nothing sudden will disturb the calm around you. The rhythm is so stable, so steady, that it feels like leaning into a familiar lullaby whispered by the sea itself. As you drift deeper in imagination, the surface swells begin to fade, their motion dissolving into softer currents that move more like thoughts than waves. The energy that once rolled above becomes a slow, diffused pulse far overhead, muffled by layers of water that thicken the quiet. You sense the shift the same way you feel the transition between waking and dreaming, gradual, peaceful, warm. The gentle waves grow distant now, a soft memory above you, while the water around you grows calmer with each passing moment, and the stillness below begins to call you onward. There's a moment, as you drift a little deeper, when the rhythm of the ocean begins to feel strangely familiar. The slow rise and fall of distant swells echoes the quiet pattern of your own heartbeat, creating a gentle alignment between body and sea. You breathe in, and the water seems to lift. You breathe out, and it settles again. This subtle synchrony softens the mind, as if the ocean is guiding you toward a calmer, steadier rhythm. And for a moment, everything feels still. Human hearts naturally settle into slower beats when the world around them quiets. The ocean, moving at its timeless pace, invites your heartbeat to follow its unhurried tempo. Each soft thump feels like a small wave rolling through the body, easing tension as it moves. The deeper you drift, the more these rhythms blend, forming a quiet duet between your inner pulse and the sea's endless motion. It becomes hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. There is only the gentle beat of life, moving patiently in the darkening blue. As currents grow slower, the body mirrors that stillness, releasing the last traces of surface tension. Thoughts drift outward into the water like fading ripples, and the heart settles into a peaceful, steady pace. The deeper blue ahead seems to match this calm, inviting you to sink just a little further with each quiet beat. The rhythm holds you, steady and warm, guiding you through this gentle descent, and the water continues to darken softly. The last traces of sunlight drift above you like distant memories, shimmering softly as they spread across the surface far overhead. You watch them fade with the same calm you feel when closing your eyes at the end of a long day. The brightness no longer reaches you fully. It filters down in gentle ribbons that grow thinner with each passing moment. In their fading glow, there is no urgency, only a quiet invitation to follow the path downward. And for a moment, everything feels still. You sense the shift before you see it. The water around you deepens into a softer shade of blue, a color that feels both comforting and mysterious. Movements slow, sounds melt into the distance. The world begins to feel suspended, as if time itself is loosening its hold. This is the threshold between the familiar surface and the tranquil unknown below. You float here for a breath, feeling the calm settle warmly across your shoulders, steady and unhurried. As you drift gently downward, the pressure around you increases in a way the body cannot feel, but the mind can imagine. A gentle reminder that you are entering a deeper, quieter place. The ocean encourages this descent, not with force, but with an effortless pull, like sinking into a soft bed at the end of the day. Nothing above calls you back. Everything below welcomes you forward. The last glimmer of surface light blurs into a soft halo behind you now, and ahead, the water darkens into a peaceful blue that promises deeper calm. And the descent continues quietly. The water around you deepens into a quiet shade of blue, the kind that feels like slipping into a dream you've already begun to trust. Here, around 200 meters down, sunlight no longer shines. It only lingers in soft fragments, scattered and faint, like distant memories drifting through a calm mind. Shapes lose their edges. Colors fade into gentle shadows. The world becomes a place of half light, neither bright nor dark, but something beautifully in between. And for a moment, everything feels still. As you move through this dimming space, your eyes adjust not to clarity, but to softness. The boundaries of objects blur, creating a world that no longer demands sharp attention. It feels like entering a quiet room at dusk, where the last remaining glow settles across everything in calm, patient tones. The water slows, thoughts slow with it. There is no urgency here, only the unhurried motion of drifting deeper. This twilight zone is a place where life glows in its own gentle ways. Tiny sparks pulse in the distance, soft blues, faint greens, as creatures make their own light to move through the darkness. Their glimmers appear like drifting stars in an underwater sky, guiding the descent with delicate, unsteady patterns. Nothing brightens sharply, nothing startles. Everything reveals itself gradually, respecting the quiet surrounding it. You drift further into this tranquil space, following the soft lights as they tremble across the water. Above you, the world of brightness fades entirely. Ahead lies the deeper calm, where darkness begins to shimmer with its own quiet life, and you continue downward, unhurried and safe. In the dim quiet of the twilight zone, the first soft glows appear like small secrets drifting through the dark. They pulse gently, never sharp, never sudden, as if each light understands how fragile the quiet here can be. A faint blue spark flares and fades in the distance, followed by another, and then another, until the water around you feels sprinkled with tiny floating lanterns. They are alive, yet their glow is calmer than fire, softer than moonlight, carrying no heat and no hurry. And for a moment, everything feels still. These bioluminescent glows emerge from delicate reactions within the creatures themselves, chemical whispers woven into living bodies. Each soft flicker is a message, a signal, a way to be seen in a world where sunlight no longer reaches. Their light is cool and steady, spreading only as far as it needs to, leaving the surrounding darkness untouched. You watch as one gentle glow drifts closer, illuminating the water around it with a halo so faint it feels like a held breath. The creatures move slowly, conserving energy, their lights appearing and disappearing with the patience of distant stars. Some shimmer in short pulses, others glow continuously, like small embers suspended in water. Their presence turns the darkness into something welcoming, something almost warm in its quiet beauty. As you drift deeper, these tiny lights guide your descent, not with brightness, but with softness. They invite you further into the calm, their faint radiance forming a gentle path through the deepening blue. And the water ahead begins to reveal new traces of life. With each gentle movement downward, the world grows quieter, as though the ocean is closing soft doors behind you one by one. The sounds you once knew, waves breaking, currents shifting, distant splashes, fade into something deeper, something almost sacred. Here, in the twilight zone, silence becomes a presence of its own, wrapping around you with a calm that feels physical. It settles over your shoulders, seeps into your breath, and softens the pace of your thoughts. And for a moment, everything feels still. In this part of the sea, sound travels differently. High notes are swallowed quickly, absorbed by the thickening water, while lower tones drift slowly through the dark. But nothing is loud, nothing is sharp. The ocean takes every noise and smooths its edges, leaving only a muted hush that echoes faintly through the vast space around you. It's a silence that does not feel empty. It feels full of patience, full of unspoken calm. As you drift deeper, the quiet becomes comforting, like sinking into a warm, dark room where the world outside cannot reach you. Even your heartbeat sounds different here, softened by the gentle pressure that increases with depth. Thoughts settle in this quiet, falling gently inward until only the simplest awareness remains. Shapes move slowly in the distance, but they make almost no sound, gliding through the water with a grace that fits this silent world. Their presence feels more like a whisper than a movement, guiding you into deeper stillness. And ahead, the quiet grows even deeper. Drifting deeper into the twilight zone, you begin to notice movement, slow, deliberate shapes gliding through the softened blue. Here, life takes its time. Creatures conserve energy in a world where sunlight no longer fuels the day, and their unhurried motion feels like a lesson in calm. A faint silhouette slides across your path, its body moving with the rhythm of a quiet pulse. Another creature drifts upward on the current, barely swimming at all, simply allowing the water to carry it where it chooses. And for a moment, everything feels still. These animals know how to move without wasting effort. Their motions are smooth, patient arcs through the dimness, like brush strokes painted slowly across a dark canvas. A jelly-like form pulses with soft precision, expanding and contracting in gentle waves that seem almost meditative. Small fish swim in relaxed spirals, their bodies flickering with faint reflections that vanish as quickly as they appear. Every creature seems to be following a single shared rule. Move only as much as you need and let the sea handle the rest. Watching them eases something inside you. Their pace is free of urgency, free of the need to rush or respond. Instead, their slow motion invites your own body to settle, to breathe a little deeper, to drift through this silent world with the same quiet acceptance. As you continue downward, these creatures escort you into greater calm, their graceful movement softening the space around you. And ahead, new forms stir gently in the deepening dark. As you drift farther from the surface, the blue around you begins to change, deepening slowly into a softer, richer shade. The transformation is unhurried, so gradual that you almost don't notice it at first, but then the light dims just enough for the color to shift, turning the water into something closer to indigo, calm, quiet, and endlessly deep. It feels like sliding into a gentle twilight that stretches in every direction, and for a moment, everything feels still. Indigo is a color that seems to hold secrets. It is neither fully blue nor fully black, but a soft space in between, where the mind can rest without searching for detail. Shapes become silhouettes here, their outlines blurred into the surrounding calm. Nothing stands out sharply. Everything blends into a tranquil background, allowing your thoughts to drift with the same gentle fluidity. The deeper you go, the more this indigo world wraps around you like a quiet embrace. It muffles the brightness of memory and softens the sharpness of waking thought. In this color, there is a feeling of being sheltered, as if the ocean is dimming the lights for you, preparing your mind for the deeper stillness ahead. The water feels thicker, slower, more patient, guiding you inward with a steady hand. You pause for a breath, watching the last traces of brighter blue fade softly into this darker hue. And ahead, through the indigo quiet, something faint and shimmering waits in the distance. Deeper in the twilight zone, the water begins to fill with tiny drifting flecks, each one falling with a patience that feels almost timeless. These particles, small fragments of life from above, descend like underwater snow, turning the dim blue around you into a slow, quiet snowfall. They move without urgency, sinking gently through the stillness in soft, wandering paths. Some drift past your face like delicate sparks. Others settle into the deeper dark below, carrying stories from the surface, and for a moment, everything feels still. Marine snow falls endlessly day and night, a calm rain of nourishment for the creatures living in deeper layers of the sea. Each flake turns slowly as it descends, catching the faintest glow from distant bioluminescent sparks. The motion is hypnotic, so slow, so steady, that you find your breath matching its rhythm without even trying. The particles fall in uneven patterns, yet the overall drift feels perfectly balanced, forming a continuous tapestry of motion that eases the mind into deeper quiet. As you watch them sink, time seems to stretch. The world narrows to the gentle fall of these tiny fragments, each one carrying the soft weight of stillness. They remind you of dust floating in a sunbeam, except the sunbeam is gone now, replaced by the faint shimmer of life far below. Their descent becomes a guide, leading you deeper into the calm, showing that even in darkness, movement can be peaceful and unhurried. And ahead, through the drifting snow, a quiet shape rises slowly to meet the falling light. As you drift deeper into this dim blue world, you begin to notice soft reflections glimmering through the darkness, gentle flashes that appear and fade with unhurried calm. They come from large, sensitive eyes belonging to the creatures of the twilight zone, eyes shaped by a world where light is scarce and shadows hold the only clues. These eyes do not shine sharply. They glow faintly, mirroring the little light that still lingers here, and for a moment everything feels still. In this place, having eyes built for shadow is a quiet adaptation, a way of seeing without disturbing the calm around you. These creatures gather what little brightness remains, turning faint glimmers into shapes you would otherwise miss. Their large eyes move slowly, scanning not for danger, but for presence, creating a sense of gentle curiosity rather than tension. You watch a small fish drift past, its reflective gaze shimmering like a polished stone touched by moonlight. Another creature hovers in the distance, its eyes catching the dim glow of marine snow as it falls. There is something peaceful in the way these eyes observe the world. Soft, patient, unafraid. They seem to understand the rhythm of the deep, moving calmly through the shadows, accepting the darkness as a friend rather than something to resist. Their gaze blends seamlessly with the quiet water, as if they are guiding you deeper with nothing more than their gentle, luminescent presence. As you continue descending, these reflective eyes fade slowly behind you, their soft glimmers giving way to darker tones ahead. And in that deepening shadow, new shapes quietly begin to form. As you drift deeper, the water begins to shift in ways that are subtle but unmistakably soothing. Slow currents wrap around you like soft ribbons, moving with a patience that invites your body to relax into their steady flow. They carry no urgency, no force, just a quiet guidance that nudges you gently onward. Each current feels slightly different, as if each layer of water holds its own calm personality. And for a moment, everything feels still. Within these layers, you pass through thermoclines, thin boundaries where the temperature changes just enough to notice. The sensation is delicate, like stepping from one cool room into another, even quieter one. These gentle transitions create a sense of passing through thresholds, each one leading you deeper into a more tranquil world. The water grows a bit cooler, a bit heavier, a bit more peaceful with every meter you descend. The currents drift around you in long, slow arcs, almost like the ocean breathing in its own vast rhythm. They guide tiny particles of marine snow past your eyes and stir the dim water just enough to remind you that even in stillness, motion persists. Everything here moves with intention, yet without haste. The sea is careful not to disturb its own quiet. As you sink farther through these delicate layers, you begin to feel the rhythm of the deep settle in more fully into your body. The currents soften, the temperature cools, the world narrows to gentle movement and hushed tones, and ahead, the darker water waits with quiet patience. With every slow meter of descent, the water around you becomes heavier, yet the feeling is surprisingly comforting. The pressure increases in silence, layering itself gently over your body like a warm, steady blanket. It is not a force that pushes, it is a presence that holds. This soft gravity of depth invites you to let go of the last bits of tension clinging to your thoughts, encouraging you to surrender to the calm waiting below. And for a moment, everything feels still. This deepening weight feels less like burden and more like reassurance. It reminds you that the ocean is vast enough to carry anything, even the heaviness you brought with you from the surface. As you drift downward, the quiet pressure cradles you, easing the edges of restless thoughts until they dissolve into the surrounding blue. The deeper you go, the more you feel the world narrowing into a calm, steady embrace. Life here moves with a kind of peaceful acceptance. Creatures glide through the pressurized dark as if floating through slow motion, unbothered by the immense weight above them. Their grace reflects the quiet lesson of the deep, that stillness can be powerful and surrender can be gentle. Watching them drift through the muted water makes your own body feel lighter even as the pressure grows. The gravity of depth does not pull you downward, it invites you. It asks nothing, demands nothing, only opens a path into deeper quiet. And ahead, beyond this comforting weight, true darkness begins to form its first soft shapes. The final traces of light linger above you like distant memories, fading into soft halos that shimmer for a moment, before dissolving into the blue. You look up and see only a faint glow, stretched thin by distance, no longer strong enough to illuminate the world around you. It feels like watching the sky dim at the end of a quiet day when color melts slowly into twilight. And for a moment, everything feels still. As the glow fades, the darkness doesn't rush in. It arrives gently, like a deep exhale from the ocean itself. The water around you becomes softer, quieter, shaped more by shadow than by light. Nothing feels threatening. Instead, the dimness brings a sense of safety, a cocoon of calm that wraps around your drifting body. The darkness is complete but not empty. It holds a quiet fullness, a patient space where the mind can loosen and sink deeper into peace. You drift downward, letting the last strands of light slip away behind you. The pressure grows slightly, the silence deepens, and the blue around you turns into something closer to night. Even the faint glow of marine snow grows dimmer, each drifting particle fading into the soft dark. This moment mirrors the boundary between waking and dreaming, a gentle threshold where clarity softens and the world becomes quieter, more forgiving. Ahead, the twilight zone ends, and the ocean's midnight realm begins. It waits in calm darkness, ready to welcome you into its unbroken stillness, and you drift toward it, slow and unhurried. Here, in the quiet turn between twilight and true darkness, the ocean becomes a vast drifting room where every sound softens into nothing. As you sink into the midnight zone, the last hints of blue melt gently away, leaving a darkness that feels warm rather than empty. This is not the sharp black of fear, but the deep velvet of rest, a place that invites you to release whatever weight the surface left upon your shoulders. The water steadies, the world slows, and for a moment, everything feels still. In this darkness, distance loses meaning. Shapes fade into gentle outlines, then into memory, until you are held by a calm that no longer needs light to feel alive. The ocean around you seems to breathe with you, matching the quiet rhythm of your drifting body. Every movement becomes deliberate, softened by the pressure that wraps around you like a quiet embrace. Nothing rushes here, nothing rises suddenly. The sea simply holds you in its steady, ancient patience. As your eyes adjust, you begin to sense subtle glimmers in the dark, tiny hints of distant life, like stars trembling behind a soft cloud. They guide your awareness deeper, not with brightness, but with suggestion, reminding you that even in darkness, the ocean remains full of wonder. You drift forward gently, carried by currents that move with the unhurried pulse of the deep. Ahead, the darkness thickens in peaceful waves, inviting you to follow its quiet path. And the descent continues slowly. Down here, the sun is only a memory, soft, distant, and impossibly far above. No beam of light reaches this depth, no shimmer of blue filters down. Yet the darkness does not feel harsh. It settles around you like a quiet envelope, steady and protective, a space where the world no longer asks for attention. Without sunlight, the ocean becomes a place shaped entirely by calm, a place where every surface breathes in shadow and every movement carries the softness of deep water. And for a moment, everything feels still. The absence of light simplifies the world. There are no bright colors to pull at your eyes, no shimmering patterns to follow. Instead, the darkness creates its own sort of clarity, an environment where only the essentials remain. Shapes drift like slow-moving thoughts, appearing and fading with gentle rhythm. The quiet deep encourages your mind to settle in the same way, releasing the need to reach outward. Here, in this world without sun, you begin to feel the comfort of surrender, letting the ocean's quietness smooth the last traces of surface tension. Life still exists in this shadowed realm, but it moves with a patience shaped by darkness. Creatures glide through the water without haste, their bodies tuned to a world that has never known daylight. They navigate by instinct, by the faintest vibrations, by glimmers of bioluminescent light that pulse far ahead. The dark is not an obstacle for them, it is home. As you drift deeper into this sunless world, the quiet becomes thicker, warmer, more complete. And somewhere ahead, the first soft glow begins to form. In the deep silence, the first glow appears like a soft breath in the dark, a faint blue pulse drifting gently through the water. It doesn't shine brightly, and it doesn't rush. It flickers once, then settles into a calm, steady shimmer, as if testing the darkness before expanding into it. Soon, another glow answers from far below, and then another from the side, until the water around you begins to sparkle with delicate points of living light. They drift slowly, never disturbing the quiet they inhabit. And for a moment, everything feels still. These lights come from creatures that have learned to make their own glow in a world where the sun has never touched. Their light is cool, soft, almost fragile, like embers, suspended in slow motion. Some pulse in gentle rhythms, sending out little clouds of brightness that fade as peacefully as they appear. Others carry a constant glow, illuminating their bodies in faint halos that drift through the water like floating lanterns. The darkness doesn't swallow their light. It holds it with care, letting every small shimmer feel important. As you move deeper, these glows gather in quiet clusters, dotting the dark like distant constellations. They guide you forward, not with intensity, but with suggestion, lighting just enough of the world to let your imagination shape the rest. Every glow seems to ask a quiet question, inviting wonder without stirring fear. These creatures, thriving in darkness, show that even the deepest night carries its own gentle beauty. You follow their drifting lights as they fade and reappear, leading you deeper into the stillness. And ahead, a larger shadow begins to move with slow, deliberate grace. In the soft darkness of the midnight zone, a larger shape moves with a patience that feels almost ancient. It glides through the water in long, measured strokes, each movement conserving precious energy in a world where nothing can afford to rush. These slow hunters are not creatures of violence or speed. They are beings sculpted by quiet necessity, drifting through the deep with a grace that feels deliberate and thoughtful. Their presence doesn't startle, it soothes, as if the ocean itself is showing you how calm survival can be. And for a moment, everything feels still. Their bodies are built for the dark, long, slender forms that blend into shadow, smooth skin that reflects only the faintest glimmer of bioluminescent light, jaws that open slowly, without urgency. They do not chase, they simply wait. In a world where energy is scarce, patience becomes the perfect strategy. A small glow drifts too close, and the hunter moves, not with force, but with a slow, assured motion, as if completing a quiet ritual. Nothing snaps, Nothing thrashes. The moment passes with the softness of drifting sand. Even their eyes, if they have them, betray no threat. They shine briefly in the faint glows around them, calm and unreadable. These hunters exist in harmony with the darkness, their lives unfolding in quiet cycles that feel more like drifting dreams than hunts. Watching them teaches the body to ease into stillness, to let go of urgency, to trust the slow rhythm of the deep. As the hunter fades back into shadow, the darkness seems to deepen around you, inviting you toward the quiet shapes that have adapted to this peaceful pressure. As you drift deeper, the weight of the ocean gathers around you in gentle layers, settling like a vast, quiet blanket. Down here, the pressure is immense, far beyond anything the surface world could imagine. Yet the creatures who live in this depth move with effortless calm. Their bodies are shaped not to resist this weight, but to welcome it, to fold into it the way a leaf settles into soft soil. They are made of flexibility and patience, built from materials that bend instead of break. And for a moment, everything feels still. Many of these deep-sea beings have no rigid bones to crack under the crushing force. Their structures are soft, fluid, adaptable. Muscles stretch like warm wax. Skin shifts like drifting mist. Organs are arranged in ways that turn pressure from a threat into a quiet companion. Their bodies don't fight the deep. They harmonize with it. Even their movements reflect this design, slow and smooth, shaped by the understanding that nothing down here needs to hurry. Some creatures glow faintly, their light shimmering through soft tissues like lanterns wrapped in silk. Others are nearly transparent, their bodies blending into the water as if made from the same darkness that surrounds them. The deep has shaped them into forms that feel dreamlike, beautiful not because they are strange, but because they are perfectly suited to a world built on silence and weight. As you drift among them, the pressure feels less like something pressing in and more like something holding you steady. And ahead, the dark begins to reveal shapes carved from its own quiet depth. In the deeper stretch of the midnight zone, the darkness begins to shape life in ways that feel almost otherworldly. Creatures appear slowly, drifting in and out of view like thoughts rising from a quiet dream. Their forms are long, delicate, and fluid, shaped not by sunlight, but by the endless night around them. Some glide with ribbon-like bodies that twist softly through the water, leaving gentle trails behind. Others carry faint, glowing spots along their sides, pulsing in slow rhythms that seem to mirror the heartbeat of the deep. And for a moment, everything feels still. These shapes are softened by darkness, their outlines shifting as they move. A long, thin silhouette rises from below, its body bending with the current in smooth, unbroken curves. Another creature hovers nearby, nearly invisible until a subtle glow highlights the edges of its form. Nothing is sharp, nothing is rushed. The deep molds its inhabitants into gentle suggestions. Creatures made of motion rather than structure, presence rather than detail. Some carry tendrils that drift like strands of silk in the current. Others have bodies that widen and narrow, like the calm exhale of the sea itself. Their designs may seem unusual, but here, where darkness rules, they make perfect sense. They conserve energy, move without sound, and blend seamlessly into the quiet that surrounds them. Watching them is like watching shapes form in smoke, soft, shifting, never fully defined. As these delicate silhouettes fade back into the dark, the water ahead grows deeper still, inviting you toward the quiet travelers who move through this silence without leaving a trace. As you drift deeper into the midnight zone, the silence becomes so complete that even movement seems to disappear into it. Through this vast, quiet world, creatures travel without leaving a sound behind. They glide through the water like whispers carried by a dream, smooth, effortless, and almost ethereal. Their bodies disturb so little that you might miss them entirely if not for the faint shimmer of a passing glow or the delicate outline of a drifting fin. They exist in perfect harmony with the deep, moving as if they were part of the darkness itself, and for a moment everything feels still. These soundless travelers have learned to move with minimal energy, conserving every motion in a place where resources are scarce and silence is a shelter. Their muscles contract slowly, their tails sweep gently, their fins shift like pages turning in a quiet room. Even when they change direction, it happens with a softness that feels intentional, as if they are careful not to disturb the calm they live within. Watching them, your own breath grows quieter, matching their unhurried rhythm. Some appear as dark silhouettes against the faint glow of distant bioluminescence. Others seem almost invisible, blending into the water with translucent bodies that catch just enough light to reveal their drifting presence. They do not hunt loudly. They do not flee in panic. They move as though time itself has slowed to accompany them through the deep. As they fade into the darkness, the water around you feels even quieter, preparing you for the deeper shadows waiting below. With each slow meter of descent, the darkness gains a soft, steady weight, settling around you like a calm hand resting on your back. It is not a force that pushes, but a presence that guides, inviting you to yield a little more with every breath. The deeper you drift, the more the dark feels like gravity, gentle, patient, drawing you inward rather than down. It gathers around your senses, smoothing away the noise of thought until only quiet remains. And for a moment, everything feels still. In this deepening dark, the ocean becomes a world without edges. Shapes fade into soft suggestions and time stretches into something slow and forgiving. The weight of the water above does not feel heavy. It feels grounding, as if the sea is reminding you that you are safe within its vastness. Every part of your body seems to relax under this quiet pressure, each muscle unwinding as though the darkness itself were easing it open. Life here moves slowly. As you draw nearer to the ocean floor, the pressure becomes a calm presence, a steady reminder of how far you've come. There is no harshness in it, only a grounding weight that encourages you to surrender more deeply to the stillness. Beneath you, faint outlines begin to appear, soft and muted, like distant shapes seen through fog. The seafloor reveals itself slowly, as if unveiling a secret meant to be discovered with patience. You hover just above it now, suspended in the quietest realm of the deep. And ahead, the vast plain begins. The descent eases into a gentle pause as the ocean floor rises quietly beneath you, revealing itself in slow, muted shapes. There is no moment of arrival, no sudden shift, only a soft settling, as if the sea has lowered you onto its resting place with careful hands. The sediment stretches outward in every direction, smooth and pale beneath the deep darkness, like dust that has taken centuries to fall. This is one of the quietest places on earth, a realm where even time seems to move with hesitation, drifting forward in soft, unbroken lines. And for a moment, everything feels still. The ground beneath you doesn't feel solid in a harsh way. It feels gentle, almost cloud-like, formed from fine particles that have gathered slowly over ages. When the faintest current brushes across its surface, the sediment lifts in delicate swirls, rising like breath before settling again in complete silence. Nothing rushes here, nothing startles. The floor itself seems to sleep, undisturbed by the distant world above. Around you, small shapes move with a calm caution, their bodies adapted to the weight and quiet of the deep. A slow-moving crab drifts along the sand, barely leaving a trace behind. A soft-bodied creature glides over the sediment as if skating across dust. Their movements are sparse, their presence subtle, as though they too are respecting the hush of this vast plain. As you rest above the sea floor, the depth feels comforting, cradling your senses in darkness and weight. Ahead, the endless flatlands stretch into shadow, waiting for you to drift further. The sea floor stretches outward in every direction, so wide and uninterrupted that it feels like drifting across a quiet, ancient desert. There are no towering structures here, no forests of coral or cliffs of stone, only an endless plain of soft sediment, untouched and unchanged across centuries. The vastness brings a strange comfort, a reminder that in the deepest parts of the world, everything moves slowly, patiently, without expectation. The horizon fades into darkness, creating the sense of floating through a dream with no clear beginning or end. And for a moment, everything feels still. This flatland carries its own kind of beauty, simple and expansive. The ground is dusted with fine grains that have drifted from far above, settling gently over thousands of years to form a surface smoother than any shoreline sand. When a faint current passes through, it stirs the top layer into tiny ripples that move like breath across the seabed. These motions are quiet, barely noticeable, yet they give the plain a living softness, as if the earth itself were breathing beneath you. Occasionally, small markings appear, subtle trails left by slow-moving creatures that wander across this vast open world. A winding line here, a delicate indentation there. These traces feel like gentle signatures on an otherwise untouched canvas, hinting at life that moves with the patience of the sea. Nothing disturbs the quiet, nothing breaks the calm rhythm of the deep. As you drift above this silent expanse, the scale of it settles into you, soothing and steadying. And ahead, the plain stretches even farther into the soft shadow. The sea floor beneath you is made of the finest dust the ocean has gathered over countless ages. Tiny fragments of shells, drifting particles from distant waters, and remnants of marine snow that have fallen gently through the dark. When you hover just above it, the sediment looks like a soft, pale blanket laid gently across the ground. It carries no harsh edges, no sudden textures, only smoothness shaped by time itself. Even the faintest current can lift it into slow, swirling clouds that rise and fall like delicate breaths. And for a moment, everything feels still. If you drift a little closer, you see how light the sediment truly is. It shifts with the slightest disturbance, floating upward in graceful spirals before settling again in perfect quiet. Each grain travels alone, yet together they form a world that feels serene and untouched. The softness of the seabed mirrors the softness settling inside you, a quiet invitation to let go a little more, to ease deeper into calm. Every now and then, a small creature leaves a gentle trail across the surface, a winding pattern drawn by a snail-like wanderer or a tiny imprint where a slow-moving crab paused and lifted itself again. These marks are temporary, soon erased by the drifting sediment or the gentle brush of a passing current. Nothing here is permanent, yet nothing ever seems to disappear abruptly. Everything changes with patience. As you glide forward, the sediment stirs lightly beneath your presence, rising in faint clouds before falling back into the same deep stillness. And ahead, the plain continues into the cool, quiet dark. The deeper you drift across the vast plain, the colder the water becomes. Not the biting cold of winter air, but a patient, steady chill that settles around you like a quiet reminder of how far you've traveled. This cold is not harsh. It is clean, peaceful, almost clarifying, as if the deep is gently cooling the last warm traces of restless thought. The temperature drops so gradually that you barely notice it happening, until the calm it brings begins to spread through your senses like a slow, soothing wave. And for a moment, everything feels still. In the abyss, cold is part of the rhythm. It slows. Movement slows time, slows everything that might otherwise hurry. Creatures here conserve warmth by conserving motion, drifting softly in the dimness with a grace shaped entirely by patience. Their bodies feel the chill, yet they move as if wrapped in a quiet understanding with the sea, gliding smoothly through water that has never known sunlight. Their slow presence matches the calm settling within you. The cold begins to feel like a companion rather than an absence. It sharpens your awareness without startling it, like a deep breath taken in peaceful darkness. The water presses lightly against your skin in cool layers, each one guiding you deeper into stillness. It clears the mind the way a quiet night clears the sky, leaving space for softness to unfold. As you continue drifting across the abyssal floor, the cold seems to hum with its own gentle silence, a steady presence holding everything together. And ahead, shapes begin to stir in the dim glow of the deep. Along the quiet expanse of the ocean floor, life moves with an elegance shaped by stillness. Here, in the deepest calm, creatures drift and crawl with unhurried purpose. A slow-moving crab inches across the sediment, each step soft and deliberate, leaving a faint trail that disappears almost as soon as it's made. A sea cucumber glides in gentle pulses, its body bending like soft fabric carried by a quiet current. Nearby, a starfish spreads its arms in a patient stretch, resting against the cool seabed as though waiting for time itself to shift. And for a moment, everything feels still. Nothing here rushes, nothing searches in haste. Every creature has learned to live at the pace of the deep, a pace shaped by cold, darkness, and an unbroken hush. Their movements are so subtle that you almost miss them, small gestures blending seamlessly into the quiet world around them. Yet each motion carries a sense of purpose, a quiet persistence that feels more like meditation than survival. Some animals glow faintly, their soft light brushing the sediment in pale blues and greens. Others rely on touch, sensing the tiniest vibrations through delicate limbs that rest lightly against the ocean floor. A gentle ripple in the sand reveals a hidden burrow from which a shy creature peeks out before retreating into the safety of darkness. Life here is not abundant, but it is steady, each being existing in harmony with the vast stillness surrounding it. As you drift above these calm inhabitants, their unhurried lives mirror your own settling breath, guiding you deeper into peace. And ahead, the quiet architecture of the deep begins to take shape. As you drift farther along the vast plain, small structures begin to rise gently from the sediment. Subtle shapes molded by time, life, and the soft movements of the deep. These are not buildings or reefs, but quiet sculptures formed by creatures that have passed this way for centuries. Tiny mounds mark the burrows of animals that hide beneath the sand, their entrances barely visible until a faint ripple lifts a pinch of sediment from their edges. Long, winding trails weave across the seafloor like threads of a slow-moving tapestry, each line a record of someone's quiet journey. And for a moment, everything feels still. Some areas show gentle clusters of shells, placed there not by intention, but by the slow gathering of currents. Other patches contain small raised ridges where worms and burrowing creatures have shaped the ground from below. These tiny constructions are easy to overlook, yet together they form a delicate architecture, silent, humble, and shaped entirely by patience. Even the rocks scattered across the plain carry their own stories. Their surfaces are softened by centuries. There is a gentle harmony in the way everything is arranged, as if the ocean floor has been shaped by a steady hand rather than chaos. Each mound, trail, and structure contributes to the calm simplicity of this hidden world. As you move forward, these quiet formations fade gradually into darkness, guiding you toward the deeper hush ahead. Far below the world of sunlight and shifting waves, the pressure of the deep gathers around you like a calm, steady embrace. It is immense, thousands of tons of water resting above, but here it does not harm. Instead, it settles across the ocean floor with a peaceful weight, shaping everything gently and quietly. The creatures who live in this realm are not crushed by it. They are held by it, supported by a force that has shaped their bodies into perfect harmony with the dark. The pressure feels less like a burden and more like a guardian, keeping this world undisturbed. And for a moment, everything feels still. This soft, powerful weight maintains the deep's silence, smoothing away disturbances before they can travel far. A ripple from a distant creature fades quickly into the quiet, swallowed by the density of the water. Movements stay gentle, sounds remain muted, and the stillness remains unbroken. The pressure keeps chaos away. It preserves calm the same way a thick blanket softens the noise of a busy world. Even the animals here reflect this quiet strength. Their bodies flex instead of resist, bending with the weight that surrounds them. Soft tissues, fluid forms, and delicate structures allow them to live without struggle, drifting through the deep with slow, confident ease. Their calm is a lesson. The deep teaches that sometimes yielding is safer than resisting. As you hover above the seabed, the pressure wraps around you with the same steady softness, encouraging you to relax into its quiet certainty. Ahead, shadows move like drifting thoughts, carrying the stillness of the deep with them. In the dim stillness of the abyss, movement becomes something delicate, so soft and unhurried that it blends seamlessly with the dark. Creatures here glide across the ocean floor like drifting shadows, their bodies moving with a patience shaped by the deep. A flatfish shifts gently, its fins brushing the sediment in slow, sweeping motions as it settles into a more comfortable hollow. Nearby, a snailfish rises with a calm, buoyant lift, hovering just above the seabed before drifting forward in a slow glide. Each motion is subtle, dissolving almost immediately into the darkness, and for a moment everything feels still. These shadow-like beings do not need to hurry. With so few predators and so little light, their survival depends on softness rather than speed. Their bodies seem to melt into the water, bending and curving without sound. Even the faint glow of bioluminescent specks only illuminates them for an instant, revealing pale outlines before they fade back into the calm obscurity of the deep. Some creatures move by rippling their bodies in rhythmic waves, smooth, hypnotic pulses that blend with the gentle currents. Others shift by barely noticeable motions, drifting almost entirely under the guidance of the water itself. You can sense their presence more through the slow displacement of sediment or the slight tremble of a shadow than through any clear shape. Watching them is like watching thoughts drift through a half-asleep mind, quiet, soft, impossible to grasp fully before they dissolve. They embody the deep's stillness, teaching that even in darkness, movement can be peaceful and light. Ahead, the deep quiet grows even thicker, leading you toward the long pauses between motions that define the abyss. As you drift farther across the abyssal plain, the silence deepens into something almost physical. Here, movement is rare, separated by long stretches of absolute stillness. The ocean floor waits in quiet patience, holding its breath between the slow wanderings of the creatures who call this depth home. The world feels paused, as though time itself has chosen to rest. In these spacious moments, nothing stirs, not a grain of sediment, not a flicker of bioluminescent light. It is a silence so complete that it feels gentle, wrapping around you like a soft, endless night. And for a moment, everything feels still. When movement does come, it arrives softly. A faint ripple of sand, a slow lift of a fin, a drifting shape emerging from darkness. Yet after each motion, the deep returns immediately to its resting state, allowing the quiet to settle once more like dust in a closed room. The balance between motion and silence is so delicate that the smallest shift becomes noticeable, meaningful. A tiny swirl of sediment can feel like a story, a single step across the ocean floor like the turning of a page. This rhythm, movement, then calm, action, then deep rest, echoes something familiar inside you. It mirrors the way thoughts drift through a tired mind, rising briefly before dissolving back into quiet. The stillness between movements becomes a kind of meditation, inviting you to breathe more slowly, to settle more deeply, to let the silence fill the spaces within you. As you drift on, the pauses grow longer, the darkness softer, guiding you gently toward the edge of the abyssal plain. The abyssal plain stretches on beneath you, its smooth, silent surface carrying you forward like a gentle path laid out in darkness. As you drift along this vast expanse, the ground begins to change in subtle ways. Small rises in the sediment, faint shifts in texture, tiny dips that hint at the plain drawing slowly toward its boundary. Nothing transforms suddenly here. The transition is as patient as the deep itself, unfolding with the quiet certainty of a world untouched by haste. And for a moment, everything feels still. The further you move, the more the horizon seems to tilt, revealing a gradual descent ahead. It feels like the plain is guiding you, nudging you toward the edge of something deeper and older. Currents grow slightly cooler, brushing past you with the faintest indication that the landscape is about to fall away into greater darkness. The sediment beneath you thickens, gathering in soft mounds that drift down gentle slopes, as though the earth is preparing to sink into its next shape. Creatures become fewer here, their trails more spaced apart, as if they too sense the coming change. A slow-moving crab pauses at the top of a sloping rise, turning slightly before disappearing into shadow. Even the bioluminescent glimmers grow sparse, leaving the edges of the plain in a deeper silence. As you approach the boundary, the sea floor dips forward in a smooth, dark curve, inviting you to follow its descent. The edge of the abyss awaits, not frightening but vast and calm, ready to guide you into the deeper mystery beyond. As you drift toward the edge of the abyssal plain, the seafloor begins to slope downward in a long, graceful curve, revealing the first hint of the trench ahead. The ground falls away slowly, as though the ocean itself is taking a calm breath before guiding you deeper. What begins as a gentle decline soon becomes a vast shadowed drop, an immense wall rising from the darkness below. Yet even here, in a place shaped by unimaginable depth, nothing feels sudden or sharp. The descent remains patient, steady, inviting, and for a moment everything feels still. The trench wall appears not as a looming cliff, but as a quiet monument carved by time. Its face is smooth in some places, textured in others, marked by centuries of drifting sediment and slow geological shifts. You float beside it in silence, feeling the scale not as something overwhelming, but as something humbling, ancient rock stretching upward and downward beyond what sight can trace. Tiny flecks of marine snow drift past the stone, their soft descent making the enormous wall feel gentle rather than imposing. As you follow the slope downward, faint currents move along the trench's edge, guiding you like soft hands along a path. The rock absorbs the dim light from distant bioluminescent glows, turning it into muted reflections that shimmer briefly before fading back into shadow. You sense life here, quiet, hidden, patient, resting in crevices and tucked along ledges, perfectly adapted to this still frontier. The deeper the wall curves, the darker it becomes, hinting at the narrow world waiting below. The trench opens slowly before you, a quiet invitation into a realm shaped by silence and depth. As you follow the curve of the trench wall downward, the world begins to narrow into a quiet, sheltered space. The open plain behind you fades into darkness, replaced by a corridor of stone and shadow that leads deeper into the earth's hidden heart. The water grows stiller here, the currents gentler, as if even the ocean knows this is a place for quiet passage. The trench feels like an immense hallway, carved by time, narrow, deep, and patient. And for a moment, everything feels still. As you enter this vast, sunless passage, the walls rise high on either side, curving inward like the ribs of an ancient cathedral. Their surfaces are etched with soft patterns left by currents that have whispered through this space for millions of years. The silence deepens, becoming a kind of soft pressure that wraps around you, guiding you forward without sound. The darkness, even smaller forms of life, microbes, crustaceans, and drifting plankton, move through this realm with unhurried grace. Their cell structures are tuned to the pressure, their membranes strengthened and softened in just the right ways. They pulse and drift and glow with faint bioluminescent sparks that illuminate the deep for only a heartbeat before fading back into darkness. Watching them, you begin to see the deep not as a place of hardship, but as a world shaped by patience and balance. These creatures show that life can exist anywhere, so long as it learns to move gently with its surroundings. Ahead, the trench sinks even deeper, guiding you toward the coldest darkness of all. Deeper into the trench, the water cools, until it reaches a temperature that feels almost eternal. Cold not as a shock, but as a quiet, steady truth of this hidden world. It surrounds you with the calm of a long, unbroken night, settling into your senses with the softness of deep sleep. There is no warmth here to distract the mind, no shifting light to pull your focus outward, only the clean, pure chill of the earth's deepest waters, a cold that clears thoughts, the way winter air clears a silent morning. And for a moment, everything feels still. This cold does not bite. It doesn't sting. Instead, it feels like a gentle slowing of everything that once rushed inside you. Movements become smoother. Breathing becomes deeper. Thoughts drift more quietly. The creatures who live in this realm move with the same calm acceptance. Their bodies glow with faint, almost ghostly blues, their motion steady and unhurried, shaped by a world where heat is precious and stillness is survival. Here, warmth becomes a whispered memory, something left far above with the sunlight and gentle waves. Down here, the cold is a companion, a constant presence that keeps the deep in balance. It protects, preserves, and steadies. It wraps the trench in a hush that feels almost sacred, a silence that the water has been holding for millions of years. As you drift forward, the darkness deepens, the temperature settles into perfect stillness, and the world feels stripped down to its softest, simplest form. Ahead, faint glimmers appear, small embers glowing softly in the cold. In the coldest stretch of the trench, small glimmers begin to appear, tiny sparks of light flickering gently in the darkness. They glow not with the bright shimmer of surface creatures, but with a warm, ember-like softness, as though each pulse carries a quiet heartbeat of its own. The surrounding cold makes their glow feel even more delicate, like fragile lanterns drifting through an endless night. These are the deep's quiet embers, living lights born from chemistry and patience, glowing just enough to mark their presence in the silent dark. And for a moment, everything feels still. One creature drifts gently past, its body almost invisible, except for a cluster of warm orange spots that brighten and dim in a slow, rhythmic pattern. Another glows with faint reds, so soft they seem to warm the water around them, though the temperature never changes. Their light is not meant to guide or dazzle. It is simply a way of existing in a place where sight is rare and illumination is precious. These glowing beings move slowly, conserving their energy, pulsing with light only when needed. Some flicker to communicate, others to camouflage, and some simply glow in steady patterns that comfort whatever life lingers nearby. Their embers drift through the water, turning the deep into a quiet constellation where each light feels like a small star suspended in a calm sky. As you watch them fade in and out, their glow softens the trench's cold darkness, creating a gentle warmth that exists only in the eyes and the imagination. Ahead, the trench walls rise in ancient silent shapes. As you drift deeper along the trench, the darkness begins to reveal the slow ancient faces of the rock walls rising around you. These towering surfaces stretch upward and downward beyond sight, carved over millions of years by the quiet weight of the ocean. They do not shine, they do not echo, they simply exist, patient and unmoving, like guardians of the deep. Their textures shift gently in the faint glow of drifting embers, revealing ridges softened by time, grooves shaped by long vanished currents, and smooth plains polished by endless fallings of sediment. And for a moment, everything feels still. These stone walls are not jagged or harsh. Their edges have been worn into graceful curves, softened by the slow touch of the deep. Some sections look like folded cloth turned to rock. Others resemble frozen waves captured in the moment of collapse. As you glide past them, the sense of age becomes palpable, a feeling that these quiet structures have watched the ocean change for longer than memory can hold. They carry the calm of things that have endured without haste. Tiny creatures cling to the walls, delicate worms, pale crustaceans, small patches of soft coral that glow faintly in muted blues. Their presence brings a gentle life to the stone, like moss on an ancient tree. They move subtly, almost imperceptibly, blending into the rhythms of the deep. The trench narrows slightly, guiding you along its immense stone corridors. With every meter, the rock faces shift into new shapes, each curve and slope telling a story written in silence. And ahead, the deep grows quieter still, preparing to open into its most timeless calm. As you travel deeper into the trench, the world begins to feel suspended in a kind of time that no longer moves forward. The darkness thickens, the water cools into perfect stillness, and every sound disappears until only your breath remains, a slow, steady presence in a place untouched by rush or noise. Here, the silence does not simply surround you. It settles into you, softening thoughts, slowing the pace of the mind. It feels as if the deep has paused its own heartbeat, inviting you to pause with it. And for a moment, everything feels still. Even the creatures that drift through this realm seem shaped by eternity. They move with deliberate calm, each motion stretched into long, graceful gestures that look almost like memories passing through the water. A pale fish glides across your path, its body curving gently as though it has known only this slow rhythm. A soft-bodied creature rises from the sediment, taking its time, unbothered by any need to hurry. The deep has taught them patience, not as a skill, but as a way of living. The trench walls fade into shadow behind you, leaving only the impression of vast, unseen space extending in every direction. Without light, without sound, without the pull of time, the deep becomes a sanctuary where everything exists in an unchanging quiet. The sense of age here is overwhelming, not frightening, but humbling, like standing in the presence of something ancient and endlessly calm. As you drift onward, the stillness grows deeper, settling around you like a soft blanket of night. And ahead, the silence begins to take on new layers, drawing you toward the deepest quiet of all. Far inside the trench, the silence becomes something almost alive, a presence that seems to breathe with the slow pulse of the ocean itself. It is a silence unlike anything at the surface. There is no distant rush of waves, no hum of life, no whisper of wind. Even the smallest vibration fades instantly, absorbed by the dense, heavy water that fills this ancient space. The quiet is so complete that it feels like a sound of its own, a soft, a steady hush that settles over every thought. And for a moment, everything feels still. In this deepest silence, your senses shift naturally, without noise, without light. Your awareness sharpens to the gentle rhythms of your own body. Each breath becomes a soft tide. Each heartbeat becomes a tiny drum, echoing faintly through your chest. You feel the water around you not as emptiness, but as a calm, supporting presence, holding you, surrounding you, guiding you deeper into stillness. The creatures here move in near invisibility, their motions too delicate to disturb the quiet. A small, translucent form drifts by, stirring only the slightest ripple before fading back into the dark. Tiny crustaceans crawl across the sediment with such softness that even the shifting grains make no sound. Life continues, but in gestures so gentle that they seem to blend into the silence itself. The deeper you drift, the more this quiet settles inside you. It softens the edges of lingering thoughts and quiets the last internal noise. You feel the hush reaching inward, calming parts of you that rarely rest. Ahead, the trench floor descends once more, guiding you toward its lowest, most hidden depths. You move deeper along the trench, and the water grows heavier with a calm that feels almost ancient. The walls on either side fade into shadow, leaving only the downward slope beneath you, a quiet path sinking into the deepest part of the Earth's oceans. Here, every meter feels like a gentle step into a world untouched by time. Nothing stirs quickly, nothing interrupts the silence. Even your own descent feels softer, slower, guided by the patient pull of the deep. And for a moment, everything feels still. The trench narrows again, its floor dipping into a dark fold that seems to breathe with the weight of the water above. Marine snow falls here in smaller, more delicate flakes, drifting so slowly that they feel suspended in place. Each particle is a whisper from far above, taking weeks, even months, to reach this depth. They land on the seafloor in soft patterns, creating tiny constellations of pale dust that shift at the slightest current. Life becomes scarce, but not absent. A small, pale creature emerges from a crevice, moving with the careful ease of something that has never rushed. Another shape rises from the sediment, gliding upward a few inches before the seafloor here is smoother than above, its sediment even finer, gathered slowly across ages. When you drift close, tiny clouds rise and settle again with the softest of motions, as though the deep itself exhales in slow, patient breaths. There is no light, no movement, no echo, only stillness, stretching endlessly in every direction. It feels like the bottom of the world, where sound, time, and memory have all come to rest. Life here is rare but resilient. A pale, soft creature shifts gently near a rocky outcrop, its body almost indistinguishable from the surrounding darkness. A tiny amphipod scurries across the sand, moving with quiet determination. Their presence is a whisper, a reminder that even in the deepest quiet imaginable, life finds a way to exist without breaking the peace. As you hover at the trench's deepest point, the calm becomes absolute, a serene weight that settles into your senses. You feel the deep's quiet strength wrap around you, steady and grounding, like the earth itself, placing a gentle hand on your shoulder. Ahead lies only the slow path upward, carrying this stillness with you. As you begin drifting upward from the trench's deepest point, the world slowly widens around you. The darkness softens, and faint hints of movement appear in the distance, life emerging where logic once insisted nothing could survive. Here, in this cold, pressurized quiet, delicate ecosystems bloom with patience and resilience. Tiny organisms drift like slow sparks. Soft-bodied creatures hover as though suspended on invisible threads. The deep, once thought barren, reveals itself as quietly alive, and for a moment, everything feels still. These beings don't resemble surface creatures. Their bodies are shaped by conditions that would crush anything unprepared. Some shimmer faintly with bioluminescent warmth, a soft pulse of color in an endless dark. Others carry no glow at all, blending seamlessly into the water, their survival guided by instinct and touch rather than sight. In the calm of this realm, movement is sparse but meaningful, each gesture a careful investment of energy. Around you, invisible forces sustain this quiet world. Microbes thrive in places where chemical-rich water rises from hidden cracks in the seabed. Tiny crustaceans feed on drifting particles that have taken months to fall. Together, they form a fragile, slow-moving web of life that persists beyond heat, light, and time. Watching them, you begin to understand the deep, quiet truth. Life does not need abundance to flourish. It needs balance, calm, patience, and just enough nourishment to continue its slow dance. As you drift higher, the first warm hints of hydrothermal energy begin to whisper through the water. Ahead, the deep's hidden hearths start to glow. As you drift upward through the darkness, a subtle warmth begins to touch the surrounding water. So gentle at first that it feels like the faintest exhale from the earth itself. Then, slowly, the source reveals itself. Towering hydrothermal vents rising from the seafloor like ancient chimneys, glowing with soft, shimmering plumes. They release warm, mineral-rich water into the cold abyss, creating small sanctuaries where life gathers around these underwater hearths. The contrast between icy dark and gentle heat is mesmerizing, and for a moment, everything feels still. The vents rise like pillars, their surfaces coated with layers of minerals that have built up over centuries. Warm water pours from their openings in slow, swirling clouds, drifting upward like smoke from a quiet fire. These plumes do not burn, they bloom, thick, curling shapes that move with soft, dreamlike motion. Against the silent cold of the deep, they feel almost alive, spreading warmth in delicate spirals that glow faintly in the darkness. Around these vents, life flourishes in ways impossible anywhere else. Tube worms stand in tall, pale clusters, their red plumes swaying gently as they draw nourishment from the minerals in the water. Small shrimp glide close to the heat, their bodies shimmering faintly as they sense the temperature shifts. Even the smallest creatures gather here, forming a quiet community, anchored to these warm breaths of the earth. This hidden warmth feels comforting, like finding a fire in the middle of a long winter night. It proves that even in the coldest depths, the planet's heart still beats softly. As you drift past the glowing pillars, more shapes begin to rise from the warm currents ahead. Near the warm vents, life becomes stranger, softer, and more wondrous than anything seen in the open sea. Here, in the darkest cold, creatures gather around plumes of heated water as if drinking from an invisible flame. They do not rely on sunlight or drifting food from above. Instead, they live from the deep earth itself, feeding on the minerals rising from the vents, turning chemical energy into quiet life. It is a kind of underwater alchemy, a way of surviving that feels almost magical, as if the ocean has learned to turn fire into nourishment. And for a moment, everything feels still. Tall tube worms anchor themselves near the vent openings, their pale bodies swaying gently in the warm currents. They have no mouths, no stomachs, yet they thrive by hosting tiny bacteria inside their tissues, partners that transform the vent's chemical richness into sustenance. Nearby, ghostly white mussels cluster together in calm, patient groups, absorbing nutrients carried by drifting mineral clouds. Their shells gleam softly under the faint glow of the vents, like quiet treasures set upon the ocean floor. Small shrimp dance near the warm plumes, moving in slow, deliberate patterns as they sense the changing temperature with delicate organs on their heads. They glow faintly in the mineral-rich water, their bodies shimmering with an otherworldly light. The warmth seems to energize them, but not in haste, only in soft, rhythmic pulses that echo the vent's quiet breath. Watching these creatures feels like witnessing the deep's own form of firelight. Life flickering gently around a hidden hearth, thriving without sunlight, guided only by warmth and patience. As you drift onward, the warm glow fades behind you, giving way once more to calm, cool darkness. Drifting a little farther from the warm vents, you begin to see towering shapes rising from the seafloor, long, pale forms standing motionless like ancient pillars. These are the colossal tube worms, some stretching taller than a human, anchored firmly in the mineral-rich ground. They rise in quiet, clustered forests, their white tubes shimmering softly in the faint glow that lingers near the vents. At their tops, delicate red plumes unfurl like slow-moving flowers, swaying gently in the warm current. They do not sway quickly. They move with the pace of the deep, graceful and unhurried, and for a moment everything feels still. These creatures do not hunt, swim, or wander. Instead, they simply stand, complete in their stillness, drawing life from the vent's embrace. Within their hollow tubes, symbiotic bacteria perform the quiet miracle of transforming chemicals from the earth into nourishment. It is a peaceful exchange, a partnership as calm and steady as the slow drift of the water around them. The tube worm's plumes pulse softly, filtering warm, mineral-rich water with a serenity that feels almost meditative. Their deep crimson color contrasts beautifully with the pale tubes, creating the illusion of an underwater garden blooming in the darkest corner of the world. Even in perfect stillness, their presence feels vibrant, alive, and ancient. As you move among these gentle columns, you notice how silence settles deeper here, softened by the warmth and the steady presence of life that asks for nothing but the quiet flow of the deep. Ahead, the glow fades, giving way to cooler water where other hidden lights begin to shimmer. As you drift away from the warm circle of the vents, the water cools once more and the darkness settles into its familiar calm. Yet even here, tiny sparks appear, faint pinpoints of light glowing softly in the still water. These are not fish or drifting creatures. They are the smallest architects of the deep, bioluminescent bacteria, floating like invisible stars that reveal themselves only in gentle pulses. Their glow is delicate. As you drift deeper into the quiet dark, a faint movement stirs near the warm edges of a distant vent. A small creature glides into view, pale, delicate, and shimmering with the faintest hints of reflected light. This is a deep-sea shrimp, one of the rare beings in the ocean that does not rely on visible light at all. Instead, it sees heat. Its eyes, large and luminous in the darkness, are tuned to the faint thermal glow rising from the vent, allowing it to sense warmth the way surface creatures sense brightness. And for a moment, everything feels still. The shrimp moves with a cautious grace, turning its body toward the shifting plumes of warm water. To your eyes, the water looks dark and silent, but to the shrimp, the vent glows like a soft flame, each ripple of heat forming shapes and shadows that guide its movements. It reads the temperature the way others read color, navigating by the gentle gradients that drift through the deep. Its antennae sweep the water with slow, deliberate strokes, feeling for changes too subtle to notice. As it approaches the vent, the patterns of warmth become clearer, shaping a quiet landscape in its mind. It pauses, floating lightly, its eyes shimmering with the faint reflections of heat it alone can perceive. In the deep, where light cannot survive, this soft sensitivity becomes a kind of vision, one that reveals the hidden world of warmth beneath the cold. The shrimp drifts away again, vanishing into cooler water where its heat sight softens into darkness. And ahead, the deep reveals a new landscape, ancient corals growing in the quiet gloom. As the warmth fades behind you, the deep settles back into cool, gentle stillness. But soon, soft shapes begin to rise from the sea floor, pale branching forms that look like delicate sculptures grown from the very quiet of the abyss. These are deep-sea corals, ancient and unhurried, living in slow-motion fields across the dark floor. They do not sway like shallow water reefs, and they do not shimmer with bright colors. Instead, they grow in silence, reaching upward in pale blues and whites, shaped by centuries of patience. And for a moment, everything feels still. Each coral structure grows so slowly that a human lifetime is only a moment in its existence. Some branches may take decades to form a single inch, yet their stillness is part of their beauty, a quiet endurance carved into graceful shapes by time itself. They rise in clusters, forming underwater forests that stretch softly into the dark, offering shelter to tiny creatures that drift between their branches. A small fish moves among them, gliding carefully to avoid brushing the fragile tips. A pale crustacean hides within the coral folds, resting in a pocket of perfect calm. Even the smallest movements create gentle echoes in the water, stirring only the faintest dust from the coral bases before the silence settles again. These coral fields feel like a forgotten garden, nurtured entirely by patience and darkness. Their slow, steady growth is a quiet reminder that life can flourish even where light never reaches. As you drift past their delicate branches, the coral shapes fade into the shadows behind you, and ahead, the deep reveals another quiet exchange of life. As you drift beyond the pale coral forests, the deep returns to its familiar stillness, but something subtle continues to move around you, an invisible exchange, a patient cycle that keeps this hidden world alive. Down here, nutrients do not rush or surge. They drift, they settle, they trade places with gentle precision, forming a quiet rhythm that ties every creature, every grain of sediment into a single, slow heartbeat. And for a moment, everything feels still. Marine snow continues to fall from the distant world above, tiny flakes of organic matter drifting downward for weeks before reaching the seafloor. When they land, they become food for small scavengers and microscopic life. These creatures, in turn, release nutrients that return to the water in soft, steady pulses. Tube worms draw minerals from the vents, then share their energy with the bacteria living inside them. Corals collect particles carried by faint currents, feeding slowly, returning what they don't use back into the deep. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. Every exchange is subtle, every transfer gentle. It is the ocean's slow economy, one measured not in days or seasons, but in centuries of patient movement. Tiny crustaceans dance near the sediment, brushing nutrients into motion. Microbes process the faintest traces, turning them into energy for others. Even the warmth from vents becomes part of this cycle, guiding creatures to places where life can continue its quiet work. This silent trade connects the entire deep, forming a web of life built on balance rather than abundance. It is a system perfectly tuned to the stillness around you. Ahead, the deep begins to reveal the resilience that holds it all together. As you move through the quiet dark, the deeper truth of this hidden world becomes clear. Everything here survives through patience. There are no fast chases, no rushing currents, no bright blooms of life that flare and vanish. Instead, existence unfolds slowly, gently, in rhythms shaped by centuries rather than moments. The creatures, the corals, the drifting snow, all of it works together in a calm, unhurried balance that feels almost timeless. This is a world that endures because it never rushes, and for a moment, everything feels still. Every organism here has learned to stretch energy, to make a single meal last for days, months, sometimes longer. Movements are deliberate, measured with care. A fish flicks its tail only when necessary. A snail-like creature drifts more than it crawls, letting the faintest currents carry it across the sea floor. The tube worms, rooted in warmth, let their internal partners do the slow work of feeding them. Even the bacteria take their time, dividing and thriving at a pace that mirrors the deep's quiet heartbeat. Nothing competes loudly, nothing grows quickly. The deep rewards calm persistence, offering survival only to those who match its stillness. And so these creatures have become masters of the slow, masters of conserving energy, of existing lightly in a place where every movement echoes. Their patience is not weakness, it is wisdom carved from the weight of the ocean. Drifting through this world, you feel that patience settling into you as well, softening thoughts, slowing your own internal rhythms until you match the deep's peaceful pace. Ahead, the hidden gardens fade and the open darkness returns. As you drift away from the quiet forests of coral and the warm breath of the vents, the landscape softens once more into open, gentle darkness. The shapes of the tube worms fade behind you, their pale columns dissolving into shadow. The tiny glowing bacteria flicker a few final pulses before becoming part of the wide, calm sea again. Even the warmth that once brushed your skin cools into a soft, steady chill. It feels as though you are stepping out of a secret sanctuary, slowly, respectfully, carrying its peace with you. And for a moment, everything feels still. The water grows simpler here, the world quieter. Without the clustered life of the vent communities, the deep becomes a vast, drifting expanse shaped only by darkness, time, and the faint motion of marine snow. The plain beneath you feels broader, flatter, as though the seafloor is taking a long breath after the dense activity of the hidden gardens. The silence stretches into smooth, open space, welcoming you back into the deep's most familiar calm. A few creatures linger near the edge, small, pale fish that move with unhurried ease, a drifting shape that glows once before fading into the dark. They seem like gentle escorts, guiding you out of the vibrant heart of the deep and into the wider stillness beyond. As the last traces of warmth disappear, the darkness shifts into something softer, more expansive. The garden's memory stays with you, its quiet resilience, its glowing life, its patient rhythm, accompanying you as you continue the journey upward into the open midnight waters. As you rise from the hidden gardens of the deep, the water opens into a vast, quiet space, an underwater sky where everything feels wider, softer, and older. This is the realm of the giants, where enormous beings drift through the darkness with a grace that defies their size. They do not rush, they do not thunder through the water. Instead, they move like slow, drifting clouds shaped by patience and the quiet rhythm of the sea. Here, in this open midnight world, the presence of something so large feels not overwhelming, but comforting, and for a moment, everything feels still. The water grows subtly warmer, the currents looser, guiding you into a domain where the scale of life expands in gentle waves. The darkness stretches far in every direction, leaving room for vast silhouettes to appear and fade without hurry. Sometimes, the first sign of a giant is a distant movement, a soft, sweeping arc, too large to be anything else. Other times, it is a low vibration through the water, a slow pulse that feels like an ancient heartbeat echoing through the deep. Yet even the largest creatures move with surprising quiet. Their motions create no chaos, only long, fluid strokes that blend seamlessly into the darkness. Their bodies seem carried by the water rather than pushing through it, as you drift farther into this open space, the silhouettes grow larger, the feeling of scale deepens, and the water hums with the soft presence of immense lives moving just out of sight. From the darkness ahead, a vast silhouette begins to take shape, broad, gentle, and impossibly calm. A sperm whale drifts into view, its massive form moving with the quiet ease of something that has lived in these depths for generations. There is no rush in its motion, no forceful push, only a slow, sweeping glide, as if the whale is being carried by the deep itself. Its presence transforms the water around you, filling the space with a gravity that feels steady and ancient, and for a moment, everything feels still. The whale's skin appears in muted shades of charcoal and blue, marked by the faint scars of a long life spent wandering the ocean's hidden pathways. Each movement of its tail sends a gentle ripple through the water, so smooth and unhurried that it feels more like the ocean breathing than a creature swimming. The immense head, home to a chamber of sound and resonance, passes silently beside you, radiating a calm that settles deep within your chest. Sperm whales dive deeper than almost any other mammal on Earth, slipping into the trenches and returning to the surface with the patience of seasoned travelers. Down here, their great hearts beat slowly, steady enough to match the rhythm of the deep. Their bodies are built for endurance, not speed, shaped by the timeless pull of the midnight waters. As the whale drifts past, its massive shadow fades into the surrounding dark. Yet its presence lingers. The sense of wisdom, quiet strength, and ancient calm remains in the water long after it disappears. Ahead, the deep stirs again, hinting at another giant waiting in the shadows. From the quiet stretch of darkness ahead, a shape unfurls, long, fluid, and impossibly graceful. At first, it is only a drifting shimmer, a soft ripple, where no current seems to move. Then, slowly, slender arms extend outward, curling in elegant spirals that glow faintly with the reflections of distant bioluminescence. The giant squid emerges from shadow like a whispered secret of the deep, a creature rarely seen but always imagined, moving with a beauty that feels both mysterious and soothing. And for a moment, everything feels still. Its body, sleek and smooth, flows through the water like a ribbon of living twilight. The squid's large eyes, perfectly adapted to this darkness, shine faintly with a quiet intelligence, not sharp or threatening, but curious in a way that feels almost gentle. It turns its gaze toward the drifting marine snow, sensing subtle movements, reading the faintest disturbances in the deep water. Its long tentacles trail behind in slow, trailing arcs, each one moving as if guided by a separate, deliberate thought. They do not whip or strike. They drift, relaxed and patient, floating with the calm certainty of an ancient creature that has never known haste. Every motion seems to occur in slow motion, shaped by the quiet of the deep and the need to conserve energy in a world where every gesture matters. As the giant squid glides past, its form folds seamlessly back into the dark, its limbs disappearing in soft curls until only a shadow remains, then nothing at all. Its presence lingers like a whispered echo, a reminder that mystery can be peaceful, not frightening. Ahead, even larger silhouettes begin to move, stirring the water with gentle, colossal grace. The water around you deepens into a softer, heavier darkness, and from within it, enormous shapes begin to move, vast silhouettes gliding with a slowness that feels almost dreamlike. At first, they are nothing more than shifting shadows, long, gentle outlines drifting across the faint glow of distant bioluminescence. Then, piece by piece, their forms become clear enough to sense. Immense bodies, broad and quiet, passing through the deep like drifting continents of life. They carry the weight of age in their movement, yet every motion is soft, steady, and unhurried. And for a moment, everything feels still. These colossal beings, some whales, some rays, some shapes you cannot fully name, move with a grace that contradicts their size. Their silhouettes ripple like soft curtains in a dark room, their immense fins and tails sweeping gently through the water. No rush, no struggle, only slow rhythmic motion, as if the deep has taught them to move in harmony with its endless calm. A giant ray glides overhead, its wings spreading wide like a drifting cloud. It casts a vast shadow that rolls across you, dimming the faintest glimmers of surrounding light for a heartbeat before drifting onward. Behind it, an even larger form moves, too large to fully see at once. Its presence felt more than observed, a living hush that passes through the ocean with ancient patience. Nothing about these giants demands fear. Instead, their slow arrival and slow departure bring a strange comfort, as though the deep itself is revealing how peacefully enormous life can exist. As the last shadow fades into the dark, the water hums quietly, preparing to reveal the silent hearts of these deep roaming beings. As the great shadows drift away, the water settles again into its gentle quiet, and you sense the calm heartbeat of the deep, slow, steady, and almost imperceptible. The giants who roam this world carry hearts built for silence. Their pulses move at a pace shaped by distance and darkness, beating only as often as needed to glide through the vastness. Each slow thump sends a soft wave through their immense bodies, a rhythm that mirrors the unhurried pulse of the ocean itself. These creatures live in harmony with the deep, their very biology tuned to the stillness around them, and for a moment, everything feels still. A distant wail passes once more, and though you do not hear it, you feel the faint suggestion of its heartbeat in the water, a slow, powerful echo that vibrates softly through the dark. Its body moves like a drifting mountain, propelled by muscles that act with economical calm. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. In the deep, even a heartbeat becomes a gentle gesture. Other roamers follow similar rhythms. A huge, long-bodied fish glides past with a serenity that makes it seem weightless. A broad ray sweeps low across the seafloor, its movements so smooth they appear like extensions of the water itself. Their energy is stored, measured, released in small, efficient motions that prioritize endurance over speed. Watching them, you begin to sense the wisdom in slowness, the way a quiet heartbeat allows these giants to travel great distances without strain, drifting through oceans they have known for decades, even centuries. As they disappear into the dark, the water around you grows calm again, ready to carry the haunting songs whispered by these gentle titans. The darkness deepens, and with it comes a feeling, subtle at first, like the faintest vibration brushing against your thoughts. Then, gently, a long, low sound sweeps through the water. It is not loud. It is not sharp. It moves like a warm current of air drifting through a quiet room. This is the song of a deep, roaming giant, a voice so powerful, yet so calm that it can travel across entire oceans without ever breaking its softness. The note stretches, dips, and lingers, carrying meaning through miles of darkness. And for a moment, everything feels still. In the deep, sound travels farther than light. A single call can ripple through the midnight world for hours, weaving its way between trench walls, drifting across plains, and brushing gently against the forms of distant creatures. These songs are not frantic cries. They are slow, steady pulses, shaped by the enormous hearts that send them outward. Each one feels like an embrace wrapped in sound, a way for giants to speak without disrupting the quiet they live within. Another call follows, deeper and longer than the last, resonating softly through your chest. It feels less like hearing a sound and more like being carried by it. These songs guide migration, signal companionship, and map the darkness. They connect animals separated by hundreds of miles, forming a quiet network of mindful presence in a world without sight. As the song fades, it leaves behind a gentle echo that seems to linger in the water, vibrating faintly like the tail end of a dream. It reminds you that even in the most silent places, communication flows in soft, powerful waves. Ahead, the silhouettes of even larger beings begin to shift into view. From the vast darkness ahead, a shape begins to emerge, so large, so impossibly broad, that it feels less like an animal and more like a moving piece of the ocean itself. At first, it's only a dim outline, a slow sweeping curve that rises and falls through the water. Then another shape appears beside it, and another still farther back, each one drifting with the quiet certainty of beings that have never needed to fear anything. These are creatures larger than imagination, gentle titans that roam the deep with a calm that feels ancient and reassuring. And for a moment, everything feels still. One passes close enough for you to sense its scale. The shadow of its body stretches farther than your eyes can follow. Its movement is unhurried, each slow stroke of its fins sending a soft wave through the water. It carries no tension, no urgency. Its size is matched only by its grace. Down here, where darkness softens every edge, its presence feels peaceful, as if the ocean created it simply to show how calm strength can look. Another giant rises from the depths below, larger still, drifting upward with a patience that makes time feel irrelevant. Its silhouette expands, then narrows, as it banks gently to the side, the curve of its body smooth as moonlight on a quiet sea. Though massive, it displaces almost no sound, moving like a drifting continent shaped of shadow and breath. These beings remind you that the ocean's scale is beyond imagination, and yet its greatest creatures remain gentle, quiet, and deeply connected to the stillness around them. As their shadows fade into the distance, the water shifts again, preparing for a slow dance shared only by the giants of the deep. As the immense shadows drift onward, another movement catches your attention, fluid, soft, and astonishingly elegant. A giant ray glides past, its wings spreading wide like a floating tapestry of shadow. Each slow sweep of its fins sends a ripple of quiet through the water, a motion so smooth it feels almost unreal. The creature moves as though time bends around it, as if the deep has taught it the art of perfect calm. Every gesture is a slow-motion breath, a gentle unfolding of life in the stillness, and for a moment everything feels still. Below, a massive fish tilts its body slightly, adjusting its course with the calm precision of something that has drifted through these waters for decades. Its scales reflect faint glimmers of bioluminescent light, producing a soft shimmer that fades as quickly as it appears. Nothing about its size disrupts its grace. Instead, its enormity seems to enhance the quiet beauty of its movements, vast arcs of motion that pass by like drifting silk. Even the whales above circle with effortless poise. Their tails rise and fall in slow, deliberate strokes, each motion sending soft pulses through the dark. They turn with gentle curves, pivoting their massive bodies with a softness that defies their weight. In this world of deep water and endless night, every giant learns the language of slowness. Watching them, you begin to feel the deep's rhythm settle into you, your own breath sinking with the quiet sweep of their movement. Grace becomes the only motion that makes sense here. Ahead, the giants begin to gather into wide, drifting formations, sharing the stillness in a dance older than memory. In the vastness of the midnight deep, the largest beings in the ocean sometimes cross paths, not in conflict, not in haste, but in a slow drifting harmony that feels almost choreographed. From several directions, immense silhouettes draw near one another, their movements synchronized not by intention, but by the natural rhythm of the sea. A whale sweeps gently upward, while a giant ray glides in a soft arc below. A massive fish drifts horizontally through the scene, its broad shape weaving effortlessly between the others. It is a dance made of calm motion, shared space, an ancient instinct. And for a moment, everything feels still. The giants never collide. They sense each other through vibrations, faint pressure changes, and the quiet language of movement that the deep has taught them over countless lifetimes. Each adjusts its path with the grace of a drifting leaf, creating an unspoken choreography that flows without mistakes. Their silhouettes overlap and separate, rising and falling in gentle waves. A whale exhales a muted pulse of sound, a deep, resonant hum that rolls through the water like a slow bell. Another responds with a softer echo. The rays pivot in long, sweeping turns, their wings brushing the darkness in a near-silent glide. Even the great fish shift in elegant spirals, their bodies responding naturally to the rhythm created by the others. In this shared space, size no longer matters. Movement becomes the only language, and stillness becomes the partner that shapes the dance. Watching them feels like witnessing the deep breathe through its giants, steady, calm, eternal. As the dance drifts apart, silhouettes dissolve into darkness once more, leaving the water quiet and waiting. The great beings of the deep begin to drift apart, each returning to its quiet path through the vast, dark water. One by one, their enormous silhouettes soften, edges blurring into the surrounding black until they are no more than gentle shadows gliding through memory. A whale's tail lifts once in a slow farewell, its shape dissolving into darkness like a curtain closing. A giant ray sweeps downward in a final graceful arc, leaving behind nothing but a faint ripple that fades almost instantly. Their departure feels peaceful, unhurried, like the ending of a long, calm breath. And, for a moment, everything feels still. The deep absorbs their presence as gently as it revealed them. The space they leave behind remains vast and quiet, but somehow warmer, as if their lingering energy continues to hum through the water. The marine snow falls again in soft spirals, settling over the path where the giants drifted moments before. Tiny glimmers of bioluminescence appear once more, like stars coming out after a passing cloud. The deep reclaims its familiar stillness, wrapping itself around you like a calm, endless night. Their absence is not empty, it is soothing. The ocean feels softer now, as though the giants have passed some of their ancient calm into the darkness. You can almost sense their distant movements far away, traveling along pathways only they truly know, singing in low, gentle calls that carry through the deep like quiet echoes of comfort. As the last shadow disappears completely, the water opens into a calm expanse ahead, preparing for the upward drift that begins the long return. After the giants fade into darkness, a gentle shift moves through the water, soft, subtle, like the first hint of dawn, long before any light appears. The deep no longer pulls you downward. Instead, it begins to release you, allowing the slow, quiet rise toward shallower realms to begin. There is no urgency in this ascent. The water lifts you with the patience of the ocean itself, encouraging each movement to unfold gradually, like a long exhale after a deep and peaceful rest. And for a moment, everything feels still. The sea floor beneath you softens into shadow, its details fading as you drift higher. The pressure eases almost imperceptibly, layer by layer, as if the deep is relaxing its careful hold. The water remains dark, but the darkness changes, becoming more open, less dense, like a soft curtain beginning to thin. Every few moments, tiny flecks of marine snow rise past you, lifted by gentle currents instead of falling, as though the ocean is quietly rearranging the direction of its breath. Life stirs in small, delicate motions. A pale fish drifts upward on its own slow path, its fins moving at rhythmic, unhurried pulses. A faint glow flickers in the distance, a drifting creature adjusting to the change in depth, its bioluminescence pulsing softer now. Even the silence begins to lighten, gaining a subtle hum, a quiet sense that the deep is slowly giving way to a world with more sound, more movement, more light. This ascent feels like waking without opening your eyes, soft, gradual, and deeply soothing. The ocean carries you upward with careful gentleness, keeping the peace of the depths wrapped around you. Ahead, a faint shimmer hints that something new is waiting in the dark above. As you continue your slow ascent, the darkness around you begins to shift in quiet, graceful ways. Shapes that once stayed close to the seafloor now rise alongside you, soft silhouettes drifting upward on paths as gentle as your own. They appear first as faint motions at the edge of perception, a curve, a ripple, a drifting outline that blends seamlessly with the midnight water. These are the deep's wanderers, creatures shaped by darkness and patience, rising with you toward regions touched by a hint of distant light, and for a moment everything feels still. You move among them like a silent companion, sharing the same gentle pathway upward. Their presence softens the water around you, adding a sense of companionship to the vastness. The ascent becomes not just a vertical journey, but a shared motion. Many travelers rising together, wrapped in the same quiet darkness. Ahead, the water grows slightly clearer, preparing to reveal drifting beings who glow with soft, floating light. As you rise into a gentler layer of the deep, faint lights begin to appear, small, floating glimmers suspended in the darkness like drifting stars. They glow softly, never flashing harshly, their light pulsing in slow rhythms that match the calm pulse of the surrounding water. These are the glowing drifters of the midwater, creatures that turn their own bodies into lanterns, not to shine brightly, but to exist peacefully in a world without sunlight. And for a moment, everything feels still. A jelly-like being drifts past, its bell-shaped body glowing in a gentle blue. Each ripple along its edge sends a soft wave of light through its transparent form, illuminating it from within like a lantern made of water. Its tentacles trail behind in delicate threads that sway without urgency, moving only when the smallest current brushes past. The creature seems to breathe light rather than carry it. Farther ahead, a chain of small glowing organisms floats in a slow spiraling column. Their lights pulse, one after another, forming a soft rhythmic ripple like a string of tiny candles carried through the sea. They drift upward as a single, peaceful body, their connection so delicate that even a whisper of motion could separate them. Yet they remain linked, glowing together in shared gentle harmony. Another creature glides sideways, its body shimmering with warm yellow light that fades and grows like the slow beating of a distant heart. Its glow reveals tiny particles in the water, lifting the surrounding darkness just enough to show the faint outlines of other drifting forms nearby. Each light feels intentional yet effortless, a quiet adaptation that turns survival into beauty. They guide nothing, attract no chase. They simply offer warmth to the dark. As the glowing drifters fade behind you, a new movement begins to shimmer in the distance, dances of drifting organisms rising through the water. As you drift higher through the midwater, the darkness begins to shimmer with countless tiny motions, soft rises, gentle falls, delicate spirals too small to disturb the stillness. This is the world of plankton, where the smallest beings in the ocean move in slow, drifting dances that shape the life of the entire sea. They do not swim with force, they do not rush, they simply rise and fall with the quiet currents, glowing faintly as they drift through the water like specks of living dust suspended in an endless night. And for a moment, everything feels still. Some plankton pulse with soft bioluminescent flashes, tiny, star-like bursts that fade almost instantly, leaving behind faint trails that swirl and vanish. Others glide without light, their transparent bodies barely visible except when a stray glimmer brushes across them. Many rotate slowly as they drift, turning in lazy spirals that make each one look like a tiny floating dancer. A small cluster moves past you, carried by a gentle upward flow. They rise together like a drifting bouquet, separating only when the current shifts. When they part, their movements remain graceful, slow tumbles, drifting arcs, soft descents. Their entire world is made of gentle motion, and never once does it feel chaotic. These tiny beings are the foundation of oceanic life, feeding creatures far larger than themselves. Yet they carry out their role without noise or urgency, embodying the quiet patience of the deep. Their dance is constant, day and night, season after season, shaping the rhythms of the sea through nothing more than calm, drifting grace. As you rise past the glowing dancers, the water takes on a faint hue, an early sign that light from above is starting to touch the dark. As you continue rising, the water around you begins to sparkle with soft, fading streaks, delicate trails of light that appear for only a moment before dissolving into darkness. At first, the glimmers seem random, scattered like tiny shooting stars drifting through the sea. But as you watch more closely, you notice their pattern. Each trail marks the passing of a creature so small and gentle that its movement can only be seen through the brief glow it leaves behind. And for a moment, everything feels still. A tiny organism spirals upward, releasing a faint ribbon of blue-green light that curls behind it in a slow, drifting arc. The ribbon lingers for a heartbeat, then thins and vanishes, leaving only the memory of motion. Another glimmer flares nearby, a short, bright pulse, followed by a slow fade, like a soft exhale of bioluminescence disappearing into the calm. These trails are not signals or warnings. They are simply the natural glow released when the water is disturbed by delicate bodies moving through it. Some trails are thin, smooth lines that stretch gently across the dark. Others twist like drifting threads or scatter in tiny bursts as microorganisms bump into one another. Each one illuminates the water just long enough to reveal that something small has passed, then melts quietly into shadow. As you rise, more trails flicker around you, tiny reminders that even in the deep silence, life is always moving with delicate intention. The glimmers mark moments rather than paths, short-lived sparks in a world defined by patience. Ahead, the water begins to lighten slightly, preparing to reveal slow, graceful shapes that thrive in the mid-water's soft glow. As the darkness softens into a deeper blue, new shapes drift into view, translucent, delicate beings that shimmer with soft, shifting colors. These are comb jellies, creatures so gentle in their movement that they seem sculpted from water and light. Their bodies are smooth, oval, and clear, catching faint glimmers from the surrounding water as they glide in slow, peaceful arcs. Then, as they turn, rows of tiny shimmering plates along their sides begin to glow in rippling rainbows, casting soft ribbons of color that drift like quiet, underwater auroras. And for a moment, everything feels still. The comb jellies move without urgency, their motions guided by the rhythmic beating of their cilia, thousands of tiny paddles that flutter in perfect coordination. These movements create the colorful ripples that flow along their bodies, each wave shifting through blues, greens, pinks, and purples in a display both mesmerizing and serene. The colors shimmer not as bright flashes, but as soft gradients, rising and fading like breaths made visible. One jelly drifts close, its body catching the faint glow of plankton trails behind it. For a moment, the entire creature glows like a floating, crystal-like lantern. Then the light shifts, and its colors dissolve into a gentle, transparent blue once again. Another jelly rotates slowly, letting the rainbow shimmer move across its sides like flowing silk. Their movements are so delicate that they barely disturb the water, leaving only the most subtle trails of light in their wake. These creatures are peaceful drifters, living entirely within the rhythm of the ocean, moving wherever the currents guide them. Watching them feels like watching calm embodied, soft, glowing, unhurried. Ahead, the water grows brighter still, preparing to reveal the first hints of the twilight zone. The water around you begins to change, shifting from deep midnight to a dim, muted blue, so faint at first that it feels like an illusion. But slowly, gently, the darkness thins. Shapes become easier to sense, movements easier to follow. You are rising toward the twilight zone, that quiet region where the first hints of distant sunlight reach down as a soft, diluted glow. The change is subtle, but unmistakable. The ocean is beginning to breathe with light again, and for a moment, everything feels still. Here, the water feels wider. The silence remains, but it softens, carrying faint echoes from the brighter world above. The pressure eases almost without notice, as though the deep, after holding you close for so long, is beginning to gently let you go. Shadows stretch differently now, longer, slower, cast not just by drifting creatures, but by the faintest touch of light brushing the edges of their bodies. A translucent fish passes by, its form no longer just a silhouette. You can see the soft shimmer of its scales, the delicate flutter of its fins. A jelly rises slowly ahead, its glow more defined, responding to the first hints of brightness filtering through the water. Even the marine snow looks different, each tiny flake now catching a whisper of light, turning its descent into a soft sparkle that this world feels like a painting made of dusk. Everything softened, everything muted, everything moving with gentle intention. The creatures are shaped by restraint, thriving in a realm where too much visibility means danger and too little light means silence. As you drift higher, the glow strengthens, hinting at a peaceful world where daylight begins to return. As you drift closer to the upper edge of the twilight zone, the water around you grows lighter still, soft gradients of blue replacing the heavy darkness that once surrounded you. With this quiet brightening, more creatures begin their ascent. They move in calm, unbroken patterns, following paths shaped by instinct and the slow rhythm of the ocean's breathing. Some rise to feed on drifting plankton, others follow warmer currents that swirl gently upward. All of them travel with a sense of peace, their motions unhurried and serene. And for a moment, everything feels still. A school of small silvery fish glides past, their bodies catching the faint light like shifting mirrors. They move not in tight, panicked swarms, but in loose, drifting formations, turning as one in graceful arcs that ripple like silk through the water. Their ascent is a shared journey, each member following the calm upward pull with soft, confident motions. Far below, a solitary jelly rises slowly, its bell pulsing in slow, steady movements. Its glow flickers faintly, reflecting the softening light above. With every gentle pulse, it lifts higher, its tentacles trailing in peaceful ribbons behind it. Even the larger beings make their way upward in patient, wandering paths. A deep-bodied fish turns its face toward the faint glow, rising in small, measured steps. Its fins sweep gently, barely disturbing the water as it follows a current warmer than the one it left behind. There is no competition here, no rushed motion, only a quiet migration shaped by the ocean's rhythm. The ascent feels like a shared meditation, a collective drifting toward softer light and gentler waters. And as you rise with them, the blue above brightens just enough to show a shimmering haze waiting in the distance, signaling the approach of a new, calmer layer of the sea. As you reach the final stretch of the twilight zone, the darkness that once pressed gently around you begins to release its hold. The water brightens into a soft, hazy blue, faint but unmistakably lighter than anything you've seen since the journey began. Shapes become clearer. Movements grow easier to sense. The world feels wider again, as though the ocean is slowly opening its arms. And for a moment, everything feels still. Below you, the deep fades into a calm, velvety shadow, a memory of silence and patience that seems to linger even as you rise. The currents feel smoother now, their paths broader, guiding you upward with a quiet confidence. Marine snow drifts around you in slower, looser patterns, each particle settling gently into new rhythms shaped by the thinning darkness. Creatures that shared the ascent with you begin to peel off into their own directions. A silverfish turns and glides deeper once more, returning to the soft gloom where it thrives. A jelly drifts sideways, following a current that carries it toward a distant shimmer of plankton. Even the small, glowing drifters fade gradually into the dim below, their lights becoming faint specks, then dissolving into the memory of the deep. As the last traces of the midnight world slip away beneath you, the water grows calmer, brighter, and more spacious. The pressure eases with a gentleness you barely feel, like a long-held weight being lifted inch by inch. The surface is still far above, but for the first time in a long while, the water carries a soft hint of daylight. You are leaving the deep behind, carrying its quiet peace with you as you rise into the next realm of the ocean's layered calm. As you drift into the mid-blue zone, the water opens around you with a clarity that feels soothing and almost familiar. The deep darkness is now a gentle memory below, replaced by a soft, washed blue that stretches in every direction like a calm sky turned upside down. The light here is quiet, not bright, not harsh, just a faint illumination that softens the boundaries of everything it touches. Shapes float with ease, shadows fade smoothly, and the ocean feels like a peaceful room with the doors softly open. And for a moment, everything feels still. The pressure is lighter now, though the change is so gradual you barely notice it. Your body feels less held and more supported, as if the water has shifted from a protective embrace to a gentle cradle. The currents move in slow, sweeping motions, guiding particles and drifting creatures through open space. Even the silence has changed. It's no longer dense and heavy, but airy, carrying a quiet hum of distant life. Small fish gather here in relaxed patterns, their scales catching the soft blue light in faint glimmers. They move without urgency, weaving gentle arcs through the water like strokes of a slow brush across a wide canvas. A jelly floats nearby, its translucent form glowing just enough to cast a delicate shadow beneath it. Its movements are almost meditative, rising and falling with the rhythm of its slow pulses. The mid-blue is a place of rest for the ocean's travelers, a calm middle ground between the pressure of the deep and the brightness of the shallows. Everything moves in moderation here. Everything breathes softly. Even time feels slower, stretching quietly in the open water. As you drift through this tranquil space, the blue around you brightens slightly, hinting at the presence of shimmering travelers rising from below. As the mid-blue brightens around you, faint flashes begin to appear, soft, silvery flickers drifting through the water like distant reflections of moonlight. At first, they seem scattered, tiny bursts of brightness that come and go, but as you drift closer, their shapes become clear, small fish gliding effortlessly through the calm, each one carrying a gentle shimmer along its scales. They travel in loose paths, crossing one another with unhurried grace, their motions forming quiet patterns that seem guided by the soft light filtering down from above. And for a moment, everything feels still. A cluster of these shimmering travelers passes nearby, their bodies curving in smooth arcs. Each movement sends ripples of silver dancing along their sides, fading softly as they continue forward. They are not in a hurry. Some drift upward, following faint trails of warmth. Others glide downward for a moment before circling back into the mid-blue. They move like wandering thoughts, rising and sinking without urgency, confident that the ocean will always hold them gently. Their paths overlap, but never collide. One fish glides close enough that you can see the subtle pattern of light shifting across its scales, like threads of liquid metal woven into its skin. It tilts slightly, and the shimmer gathers along its side before dispersing into soft blue shadow. Another passes just below, its tail sweeping the water in slow, elegant strokes that leave no disturbance behind. These travelers seem to belong to both worlds, the deep that lies beneath and the sunlit waters above. Their bodies reflect just enough light to reveal their presence, yet they remain perfectly attuned to the calm that surrounds them. Watching them cross one another is like witnessing a quiet ballet, shaped not by music, but by the ocean's own steady breath. As they drift away, the water grows clearer still, preparing to reveal the graceful silhouettes of larger beings gliding through the soft blue. As you drift farther into the brightening mid-blue, the water shifts around you with a broad, sweeping calm. Then from the haze ahead, a wide, fluid shape emerges, gliding with a softness so effortless it feels like a dream. A ray passes through the blue, its broad fins unfurled like wings, drifting in a slow, endless glide. Its movement is so smooth that it seems to float rather than swim, carried gently by the quiet current. The edges of its body ripple in delicate waves, making it appear almost weightless as it moves. And for a moment, everything feels still. The ray's upper surface blends beautifully into the surrounding water, its gentle pattern shifting like light, brushing across smooth sand. Its underside gleams faintly, catching soft reflections of the filtered blue above. Even its eyes seem calm, observing its surroundings with a steady, peaceful awareness. Nothing in its motion suggests rush or urgency. Every glide is a long, unbroken stroke, as if the ocean itself is lifting the creature forward. Another ray follows behind it, smaller but just as graceful. It sweeps upward in a slow curve, its wings billowing with each pulse. The water beneath it stirs in soft spirals, sending tiny particles swirling upward before they drift back down like underwater dust. Together, the rays move in a kind of quiet harmony, mirroring each other's curves, splitting gently when currents guide them apart, then drifting parallel once more. The rays seem to paint the water with motion, filling the mid-blue with calm, looping pathways. There, the school turns slightly, and the entire formation shifts direction with a smooth, sweeping curve. Not one fish rushes or hesitates. They simply flow, guided by instinct, by the gentle pressure of the water, and by the quiet awareness of their neighbors. Their bodies flash in the dim light, silver, blue, then silver again, as they change angles, creating soft waves of color that pulse through the water. Sometimes the fish move tightly together, forming a dense cloud that drifts upward in a slow spiral. Other times, they loosen into a drifting ribbon, stretching across the blue like a soft line drawn by an unseen hand. Their motion is never chaotic. Even when they shift direction, they do so with a grace that seems almost musical. Each turn aligned, each glide steady, each moment shaped by calm precision. You drift alongside them for a while, matching their rhythm without effort. The presence of so many small, gentle lives creates a comfort in the water, a sense of belonging, of quiet movement shared with others. As the school drifts into the brighter blue ahead, their shimmering forms begin to blur into the glowing water, just as larger, slower shapes start to appear in the distance. As the shimmering school fades into the softer brightness ahead, the water grows calm again, wide, open, and quietly shifting with slow currents. Then, from the pale blue haze, a larger silhouette emerges. A gentle giant glides toward you, its massive body moving with the same patience found in the darkest depths. But here, in the mid-blue, its presence feels even softer, bathed in light, outlined in a glow that turns its slow motions into something almost poetic. The creature moves with certainty, yet never disturbs the peace around it. And for a moment, everything feels still. Its great fins sweep through the water in long, relaxed strokes, each one a smooth arc that pushes it forward with minimal effort. The sunlight, filtering faintly from above, paints subtle highlights across its back, soft silver on one turn, pale blue on the next. Its eye, large and calm, glances through the water with a gentle awareness, reflecting not fear or dominance, but quiet understanding. Another giant joins it from below, a broad, slow-moving shape rising steadily, as if lifted by the soft beams of light drifting down. Together, they glide in loose formation, never touching, never rushing, simply sharing the blue with a presence that feels reassuring and ancient. Their size does not intimidate, it comforts. They carry the stillness of the abyss within them, but here, under this gentle glow, that stillness warms instead of cools. Tiny fish swim alongside them, safe in the calm slipstreams created by their slow passage. The giants make no effort to change direction or speed. They move as though guided by something steady within, a rhythm that belongs into the ocean. As you drift beside them, the mid-blue brightens further ahead, promising a world filled with sunlight that sways gently above. As you move farther into the mid-blue, the water around you begins to change in a way that feels almost magical. The brightness grows, not suddenly, not harshly, but with a soft, spreading glow that filters downward like the gentlest rainfall. Rays of sunlight drift through the water in long, delicate beams, each one shimmering as it falls, breaking into tiny particles of brightness that sway and dissolve. The world around you becomes a soft mosaic of light and blue, as if the ocean has opened tiny windows to the sky far above. And for a moment, everything feels still. The beams shift with the movement of the waves at the surface, turning the water into slow-moving ribbons of brightness. One beam sweeps across your path, illuminating drifting particles that swirl like golden dust. Another beam breaks into faint flickers, shimmering across the surface of a passing fish and painting its scales with a gentle glow. The effect is calming, almost hypnotic, light moving at the ocean's pace, unhurried and soft. Creatures rise into the beams, letting the light brush over them in warm, muted strokes. A jelly glides through a column of brightness, glowing more clearly as the rays shine through its translucent body. A school of small fish passes through another beam, their bodies flashing in gentle patterns before fading again into blue. Even the currents seem to slow in the presence of this light, guiding the drifting marine snow through the beams in long, graceful spirals. The brightness does not rush downward. It drifts, it sighs, it settles. In this soft rainfall of sunlight, the ocean feels lighter, quieter, and more open. The world above is still far away, but its warmth is beginning to breathe into the calm. Ahead, faint shadows move, creatures shaped by this very glow. As the gentle light continues to drift down through the water, new forms begin to appear, creatures shaped not by darkness or pressure, but by the soft haze of sunlight that filters through the mid-blue. Their bodies carry the quiet signatures of this world, muted patterns that mimic the drifting beams, soft colors that blend with the shifting light, and movements that seem designed to ride the brightness rather than escape it. They glide with ease through the glowing water, their shapes flowing seamlessly into the soft blue around them. And for a moment, everything feels still. A small fish with a translucent body passes nearby, its skin catching faint strokes of sunlight that make it appear almost invisible except for a shimmering outline. As it turns, the light refracts through its scales, creating tiny rainbow flashes that disappear as quickly as they appear. Its movements are gentle, guided by the light, as though it were following faint pathways painted through the sea. Farther ahead, a thin, ribbon-like creature rises into a narrow beam. The sunlight reveals delicate patterns along its body, soft stripes of silver and pale blue that shift like watercolor strokes. It moves with slow, waving motions, letting each curve of its form catch and release the light in peaceful, rhythmic pulses. Some creatures remain just below the brightest beams, preferring the softer haze that surrounds them. They glide in and out of shadow, their muted colors perfectly matching the water's shifting tones. Their bodies seem designed to disappear when needed, blending into the blue so completely that only their slight motion reveals their presence. These beings are part of the quiet threshold between the deep and the surface. They live where the light is never strong but always present, where the world glows just enough to soften every movement. As you drift upward with them, the water begins to brighten more noticeably, hinting at the approaching comfort of the sunlit shallows. As you rise higher, the water shifts once more, not just in brightness, but in temperature. A gentle warmth begins to settle around you, subtle and soft, like stepping into a sunlit room after a long night. The chill of the deep fades slowly, replaced by a mild heat carried downward from the surface. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It drifts. It blends. It eases into the blue with the same calm patience found everywhere in the sea. And for a moment, everything feels still. Each upward movement brings a faint touch of warmth, brushing against your skin in quiet pulses like the ocean breathing deeper. It loosens the traces of cold still lingering from the depths, softening your senses just as the light has softened the darkness. The water feels smoother here, more fluid, as though the heat has made everything melt slightly into a gentler motion. Creatures respond to the change as well. A slender fish rises past you, seeking the temperate layers above. Its fins flick in slow, relaxed sweeps, guided by the comfort of warmer water. A jelly pulses upward with newfound ease, its movements less heavy, its body glowing with the softness that seems amplified by the sunlit warmth drifting down. Even the tiny plankton appear more lively, swaying gently in the mild lift of the rising current. The warming water brings with it a sense of transition, a quiet turning point between the cool twilight below and the brighter world that lies ahead. Everything becomes more open, more fluid, more harmonious. As you drift upward, the warmth deepens into a gentle embrace, and for the first time, the surface feels near enough to imagine. Ahead, the light brightens into soft gold, signaling the approach of the sunlit shallows. As you rise through the warming blue, the color of the water begins to shift once more. The soft, muted tones of the mid-layer melt gradually into a gentle gold, as though the sunlight above is creatures move through the golden haze with a new kind of grace. A small school of fish swims upward in gentle spirals, their bodies painted in shifting tones of silver and honey. Their scales reflect the filtered sunlight like soft mirrors, turning with each slow movement. A jelly drifts past, its translucent form glowing warm at the edges where the beams touch it. Its tentacles sway in slow ribbons, catching bits of gold that shimmer only for a heartbeat before fading back into shadow. Everything here feels tender, warm without being bright, illuminated without being loud. The gold blends seamlessly with the blue, creating a world where contrast disappears and only peace remains. It is the kind of light that doesn't wake you. It comforts you, settles you, guides you upward with gentle assurance. As you drift through this soft, glowing layer, the water brightens once more, hinting at the calm clarity of the shallows just above. As you rise through the final stretch of the golden haze, the mid-blue world behind you begins to soften into memory. The gentle warmth wraps around you fully now, settling into every movement, while the filtered light above grows clearer, brighter, more defined. The water feels broader, easier to breathe within, not literally, but in the sense that its softness opens space around you. The deep's heaviness has long dissolved, replaced by a peaceful, airy calm, and for a moment, everything feels still. Below you, the blue deepens quietly, its darker tones folding softly into themselves as though tucking in for a long rest. The shimmering travelers, the drifting rays, the dancing schools, They all fade into the golden distance, becoming delicate echoes of a journey lived in quiet wonder. You carry their stillness with you, a calm pressed deep into your senses like a gentle imprint of the deep. The water around you brightens with every slow rise. Sunlight falls in clearer beams now, creating long, wavering pillars of brightness that stretch downward like guiding hands. Bits of marine snow shimmer as they cross the beams, turning into tiny sparks before melting away. Even the currents feel different, lighter, smoother, carrying you upward with a soft persistence, as though the ocean itself is ushering you into a new realm. Creatures drift beside you for a moment longer. A small fish arcs up toward the shallows before veering off, disappearing into the brightening blue. A lone jelly pulses upward with you, but soon sinks slowly back, preferring the dimming light below. One by one, they peel away, leaving you floating in the gentle openness between worlds. Ahead, the water turns clearer still, revealing the calm, sunlit shallows waiting above, your next quiet destination. As you rise into the shallows, the water transforms once again, this time into a bright, open world filled with soft, welcoming light. The deep blues fade into gentle turquoise, and the sunlight above pours down in warm, rippling waves that sway with the surface. The ocean feels lighter here, almost airy, as if the weight of the deep has completely slipped away. Every movement becomes easier, every sound feels softer. The water glows with a peaceful clarity that spreads through your senses like a warm breeze drifting through a quiet room. And for a moment, everything feels still. The currents move gently, shaping drifting lines of brightness that stretch across the sand below. Shadows ripple with the waves, shifting in calm, rhythmic patterns that lull the senses. Small particles drift through the beams of sunlight, shimmering like tiny flecks of gold suspended in the clear blue. The water carries a warmth that feels soothing, not intense, not sharp, just enough to ease your mind into a deeper sense of calm. Creatures here move with a relaxed confidence. A small fish glides past your view, its scales reflecting the soft light in flashes of silver and pale yellow. A gentle ray sweeps over the sandy bottom, its form outlined sharply now that the water is clear and open. Even the distant shadows of larger beings feel softened by the brightness, their shapes peaceful and calm as they drift just below the surface. The shallows are a world of simplicity. No heavy pressure, no deep darkness, no rushing movement. Only the easy sway of light, the gentle push of warm currents, and the subtle presence of life moving quietly through the calm. As you drift farther into this bright, peaceful space, the ocean begins to reveal the soft patterns etched by sunlight dancing on the sea floor. As you drift deeper into the calm shallows, the sunlight above begins to take on a life of its own. It shimmers through the clear water in long golden ribbons that ripple gently across the sandy floor. Each wave on the surface bends the light into new shapes. Soft diamonds, shifting lines, gentle waves that glide across the ground like living patterns. The sea floor becomes a canvas of moving brightness, a peaceful, ever-changing dance of sun and water, and for a moment everything feels still. The sand below glows in pale hues of cream and soft gold, its surface smoothed by the quiet push of the currents. The light moves across it with slow, fluid grace, never repeating the same shape twice. A slight shift in the waves above sends the patterns trembling for a heartbeat, then melting back into calm, rippling motion. It feels like watching sunlight breathe. Small shells scattered on the sand catch the passing brightness, reflecting it in sharp, delicate flashes. A tiny crab shuffles between shadows, its body glowing briefly each time a ribbon of light brushes over its shell. Even the gentle ripples the creature leaves behind create new patterns, thin lines that stretch and fade as the sunlight dances across them. A ray glides above the seafloor, its shadow trailing behind it in a soft, wavering shape. As it passes through the beams, the light bends around its wings, forming patterns that seem to swirl in its wake. Everything moves slowly here, allowing the dance of light to unfold with uninterrupted calm. You drift above this glowing, shifting world, feeling its softness settle inside you. The gentle movement of the brightness soothes the senses, guiding you into an even deeper state of ease. Ahead, the seagrass sways in the warm shallows, inviting you into its quiet, flowing meadows. As you drift onward across the glowing sea floor, the sand begins to give way to long, slender blades rising gently from the ground. They move with an elegance shaped entirely by the water, never abrupt, never rushed. These are meadows of seagrass, stretching quietly beneath the warm shallows like an underwater field caught in a slow, peaceful breeze. The blades sway in unison, bending and lifting with the rhythm of the waves above. Their motion is soft enough to calm the mind, steady enough to settle the breath. And for a moment, everything feels still. The sunlight pours over the seagrass in soft golden sheets, turning the green blades into shifting ribbons of color. Each one shimmers as it moves, reflecting the filtered light in gentle arcs. As the grass sways, tiny bubbles cling to the leaves, catching the light before floating upward in slow drifting spirals. Small fish weave between the blades, their bodies flickering like drifting sparks as they slip through narrow corridors of moving green. A gentle current sweeps across the meadow, and the entire field leans in one smooth motion like a single, breathing organism stretching toward the distant horizon. Then, as the current softens, the grass slowly rises again, each blade returning to its resting place with calm patience. The rhythm is hypnotic, drawing you into its quiet repetition. Nothing interrupts it, nothing hurries it. It simply flows. A small turtle glides through the meadow, its slow flippers stirring the grass in soft ripples. The blades bend around its shell, then lift again in its wake, restoring the gentle pattern, as if the turtle had never passed. Even the shadows here move tenderly, swaying over the grass in long, soft strokes. You drift above the seagrass like a silent observer, watching the meadow breathe beneath you. The stillness settles deeper, filling the water with a comforting warmth. Ahead, the sandy floor stretches out once more, lined with gentle ripples shaped by the tides. As the seagrass meadows fade behind you, the sea floor opens into smooth, sweeping stretches of sand. But the sand is not flat. It is carved into long, delicate ridges, soft ripples etched by the steady push and pull of the tide. These patterns look like handwriting left by the ocean itself, flowing in gentle lines that stretch across the floor in quiet harmony. Each ridge rises only slightly, yet together they form a landscape that feels peaceful, intentional, and endlessly calm. And for a moment, everything feels still. The sunlight drifts across these sandy ripples, filling the shallow world with a warm, golden glow. As the light moves with the waves, the patterns shift subtly, shadows deepening, highlights brightening, then softening again. The ripples seem to breathe in time with the water above, expanding and relaxing in long, slow rhythms. When a gentle current sweeps through, grains of sand dance along the surface, sliding down the ridges and collecting in the small valleys between them. The movement is so soft that it looks like a whisper shifting across the ground. Tiny shells rest in the hollows, their shapes outlined by the glowing light. A small fish darts across the ripples, its shadow stretching and shrinking over the sandy lines like a drifting watercolor brushstroke. The ripples themselves tell stories of the tides, how the water rises and falls, how the currents curl and unwind. Each pattern is temporary yet timeless, reshaped daily without ever losing the peaceful rhythm at its heart. You float above this quiet script written in sand, feeling the calm of its slow geometry settle deeper into your senses. The patterns guide your gaze gently forward, where the water brightens into a clearer, more open blue. Ahead, the surface begins to shimmer, signaling the nearness of the sunlit world above. As you drift past the tide-written ripples, the water around you softens into a wider, gentler blue. Here, shapes begin to move with the calm ease of a world warmed by sunlight. Small silhouettes glide in the open shallows. Fish, rays, drifting clouds of tiny life, all carried by tender currents that shape their paths with slow, unhurried hands. Nothing rushes, nothing startles. The movements around you blend into a quiet tapestry of life, swaying and drifting in perfect harmony. And for a moment, everything feels still. A group of small fish swims close, their bodies shifting with each turn of the water. They seem to follow invisible lines, changing direction not with speed, but with gentle curves that echo the flow of the current. Their scales catch soft sunlight, shimmering faintly before fading again into the blue. Farther ahead, a ray glides just above the sand, its wings rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Every motion creates a subtle swirl. Small fish move through these beams like sparks of living color, their scales reflecting warm sunlight in tiny flashes. They glide effortlessly, as though the light itself is carrying them. A ray drifts lazily through a bright patch, its wings glowing around the edges where the beams strike. Even the simplest movements, sand stirring gently under a current, bubbles rising in loose spirals, take on a shimmer, softened by the warm illumination. The water feels comfortable now, a perfect blend of clarity and calm. The warmth spreads through the shallows like a soft breath, easing the last traces of coolness from your journey upward. Everything glows with a quiet vitality, a peaceful brightness that doesn't overwhelm but soothes, wrapping the world in a golden calm. As you drift forward, the shimmering light thins into a gentle sparkle, guiding you toward the final stretch beneath the bright, quiet surface. The world, just beneath the surface, feels like a sanctuary made of light. The water glows in soft, shifting gold, and every movement sends gentle ripples of brightness drifting across your vision. It is quiet here, quieter than the world above, gentler than the deep below. The surface, for all its shimmering motion, casts a blanket of peace downward, creating a glowing ceiling that turns the water into a calm, sunlit room. You float in this brightness, wrapped in warmth, surrounded by slow waves of light that soothe the senses like a lullaby. And for a moment, everything feels still. The surface bends the sunlight into soft shapes that dance above you, oval patches, shimmering waves, delicate swirls that drift like reflections from a warm dream. These patterns move with the rhythm of the sea, never in a rush, never in straight lines, always softening into something new. The brightness touches your surroundings with a golden hush, turning each drifting grain of sand, each floating bubble, into part of the quiet glow. Small fish linger here, bathing in the warmth. They glide in gentle loops, occasionally dipping toward the sandy bottom before rising again to catch the sunlit shimmer. Their scales flash with soft silver hues, more muted than in open light, as though the water filters everything into calm. A jelly drifts upward, its body glowing like a pale lantern as it nears the radiance. It hovers just below the surface, letting the light play through its bell in rippling waves before slowly descending again. The warmth of this place is steady and comforting. It eases the last remnants of cool water from your journey, filling you instead with a tranquil, drifting serenity. The pressure here is gentle, the light reassuring, the silence warm. It feels like the ocean's most peaceful sigh, a space where everything slows into harmony. As you float in this golden stillness, the shimmering surface above becomes clearer, rippling softly like a curtain drawn by the breeze. The final layer awaits, the quiet world where water touches open air. With one last gentle ascent, the shimmering ceiling of the ocean draws near, a rippling sheet of brightness that wavers delicately above you. The water grows warmer, clearer, almost weightless, as if the sea itself is easing you toward the surface with soft, guiding hands. The boundary between water and air shines like liquid glass, shifting in calm, hypnotic waves that blur the world above into a gentle haze of light. You rise slowly, feeling the stillness deepen, not break. And for a moment, everything feels still. The sunlight grows brighter in slow, soothing pulses. Each upward drift sends warm rays gliding across your skin, each shimmer of the surface revealing a softer outline of the sky beyond. The water hums with a quiet energy, the final breath of the ocean's journey before releasing you into open light. Tiny bubbles float past, spiraling upward like silver beads drawn toward the brightness. They gather near the surface, widen, then slip silently into the world above. Fish linger in the shallows beneath you, swimming with calm confidence through the last gold-washed beams. Their scales shine warmly, reflecting pieces of the approaching sky. A ray settles gently on the sand below, sending a faint cloud of golden dust swirling upward, illuminated by the glow. Even the distant ripples of the sea floor fade into warm silence. The surface itself moves in soft, rounded shapes. No sharp waves, no harsh lines, only gentle curves that drift back and forth like the rhythm of quiet breathing. As you near it, the shimmering veil becomes clearer, until the world above and the world below blur together in one peaceful glow. Breaking through this light feels less like rising and more like floating into a brighter dream. The calm remains, the warmth stays, the ocean holds its final moment for you, soft, glowing, timeless. And then, with a tender lift, you touch the surface and enter the quiet world of open air. As you rise gently from the deep, let the calm you gathered along the way stay with you a little longer. The ocean below is quiet now, its slow rhythms still echoing softly in your breath. Every layer you drifted through, glowing creatures, drifting gardens, warm shallows, has settled into your senses like a peaceful hush. You are back at the surface, wrapped in a calm that moves as slowly as the waves themselves. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. If your thoughts are light, let them drift. And know that whenever you need this peace again, you can return to the deep with me. Thank you for sharing this quiet journey with the gentle physicist. May the calm of the ocean stay with you long after the night has settled.